fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top now!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
It's time for the third round of the International Division of the Majors Series, the wildcard round, where each individual region gets their own special round 3. Here on SimSpeed TV, we are broadcasting the International region, and it is the Bathurst 2-hour. GT3 and GT4 machinery taking on the Mount Panorama circuit in the early hours of the morning. As you can see, it's quite dark out there on track at the moment as the sun rises, but you'll gradually be able to see more of this magnificent Australian road course as the event progresses. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box for this one is Jay Kennedy, with Ryan Jones absent due to some real-life commentary commitments down in Melbourne. Certainly wish him all the best there, but Jay, Bathurst never fails to impress, and we got GT machinery coming around here, which is excellent.
Yeah, it's an impressive field too, and I think the thing that surprised me, and I'm pretty sure it surprised you, is the number of drivers that have opted for GT4 machinery as opposed to the GT3. We know how fun the GT3s are to drive. GT4 a little bit slower, but amazed how many drivers have gone, yeah, I'm going to drive the GT4. And it's a stacked field in both classes, and as you said too, wildcard round means that drivers from all different regions can all come together. There are actually awards at the end of the season for all of the wildcard rounds if people can do every single one in every single region. So it's going to be a few drivers trying to do that. I think we've got 6, 7, 8 from the Americas and 3 or 4 from Euro in this split. This is also just pro drivers too. We've also got a sportsman split happening at the same time as well. So this is the biggest turnout we've had for the 2021 Major Series in the international region.
Certainly is. Fantastic turnout we've got here. If my counting is correct, we got 12 GT4 cars here. So it's not far off a 50-50 split between the classes. It's really good to see both classes with very good representation. Well, we've already run 2 rounds of the Majors Series so far. We did the Daytona 2.4 and then the 1987 Daytona 500. Cameron Dance, the winner of that Daytona 500. And he's got quite a bit of work to do because he's decided to race in the GT4 class tonight, but I think he was counting on it being a little less competitive than it is for maximum championship points, but it seems like that GT4 class is very closely contested if those practice timesheets are anything to go by.
Yeah, 100%. It's a bit surprising how many drivers, for me, I know early on when I looked at the registrations, I think it was only 5 or 6 overall in GT4, so to see that we've got such a stacked field in GT4 as well as GT3 is really impressive. And as you said, Cameron Dance deciding to go GT4. I know I was talking to a few of the guys, they were thinking GT4 is going to be a weaker class. Let's run GT4 to make it a little bit easier and pick up potentially more points. Well, I think that may have backfired because to me, I reckon the GT4 class is as competitive, if not slightly more competitive than the GT3s. Looking at the strength of field, so based off iRacing official results and iRating, they're pretty much 50-50. So we're in for an absolute heck of a race in 2 classes, which is going to make it even more fun. Twice the fun in 2 hours of racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait for this to go off. We've only got 4 minutes or so left in this practice session, and then we got 10 minutes of qualifying, where every driver has 4 laps to set their time for the grid. And if these practice timesheets are anything to go by, I reckon Thomas Hinz is the favourite for pole position. Fastest driver in GT3 at the moment on a 202.895 in his Ferrari. And that brings us to the matter of car choice in GT3 as well. The BMW M4 GT3, the most recent GT3 car on the iRacing service, by far the most popular choice in this class.
100%. It's a massive turnout of BMW GT4 would it be 80% of the field is going to be in BMW, which again, slightly surprising. I think because there was a balance of performance update mid-week, it hasn't really meant that drivers have had the full amount of time to choose which car to go for, and they've had right up until the last second to decide which of the cars they went for. 5 choices in GT3, the 2 choices in GT4, with the third choice not being used because it literally only came out yesterday, so not enough time to add it into the series. But BMW, Ferrari, Mercedes, and there was a Lamborghini on the entry list, but I think someone's decided to change last minute and go with a teammate and go back the other option. So, so we'll have 3 makes of car in GT3, and we'll have the Porsche and the BMW in GT4.
Indeed, we will. Yeah, the release of the McLaren in the GT4 class took everyone by surprise just a day or so ago, and of course, this event has been in the works since late last year, so it wouldn't make much sense to make a last-minute change and potentially mess up the entry list for this event. Harold Stadler there in the Fitstone Motorsport BMW GT3, currently 3rd on the timesheets, with Thomas Hinz there in his Ferrari. 202.895 versus a 203.092 for Stadler. And a 0.2 difference at most tracks would be fairly substantial. But I think at Bathurst, at a place like this, you know, a very long circuit, 6.2 kilometers long, and plenty of places where little micro errors can cost you quite a bit of time, I reckon those times are still pretty close. And Daniel Stevens, less than a 10th ahead of Simon Mazzomo here in the GT4 class, but I think a very well-presented Porsche there for the number 3.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? The MFR cars have been turned out really, really cool once again, and competitive as well, because Daniel Stevens fastest in practice at the moment. Stevens, Mazzomo, Dance, Burns, and Sheridan, the top 5 in practice in GT4. Hinz, Josh Knight, former champion, in P2. Aaron Stanley 3rd. Now Harold Stadler 4th, and Matt Andrews in 5th. Currently for that class. And another thing that's cool, Reefs, you haven't seen this yet. We've got extra drivers on the driver wall tonight.
Hello. You can see Thomas Hinz and Cameron Dance down there on the bottom. Hinsey obviously going to grab a drink or something like that. Daniel Stevens is top centre. To the left is his MFR teammate Jonathan Bain, and we also have a special guest there on the right whom we haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's Isaac Snyder from the New York club, so one of the international... Sorry, we can't really say international, can we? He's one of the American ring-ins for this event, so he'll be very, very noticeable out on track in the pitbox.io BMW. So, cool to see some extra names and extra faces out there on track for tonight's racing.
Indeed, and we've had a couple of changes in the timesheets in GT4 right at the end. Cameron Dance is now holding the fastest time there, 2:13.385. That's over a full second ahead of Daniel Stevens, and Dwayne Burns promoting himself up into 3rd place there on the timesheets. So everybody looking to get their final preparations in for qualifying, as there's less than 15 seconds to go. Now is the time to really see how fast you can go around this place. And I'm seeing the light gradually start to increase around the circuit. Some beautiful scenic shots here. Of course, the National Motor Racing Museum of Australia, right by the run to the final corner here at the Mount Panorama circuit. An incredibly historic place. And there's Dale Jr. and Steve Myers. Hey, guys.
Good to see them come out for the race. I didn't think it was that big an event for them to turn up to, but I mean, it is Bathurst, so it's worth coming along to. And the National Motor Racing Museum, if you've never been before, that is worth going to Bathurst just for the museum if you're a motorsport fan, but then you've got the track as well, which of course is public road. So 90% of the year, 95% of the year, it is open to actually drive around. You and I both done that before, Reece. It is incredible. And I don't think you appreciate this place until you've walked it and driven it.
Absolutely. I mean, I have done a lap of this circuit on foot, and seriously, it's something that you hear said about this place all the time. TV.
It's almost cliche, isn't it?
Yeah, TV and Sims don't do it justice. You hear it all the time. It is 100% a cliche, but it's one that's really based in truth because you see Daniel Stevens coming up here to the run to the cutting. I walked that section of the track. It is just a constant uphill gradient the whole way up the circuit until you get to McPhillamy Park all the way at the top. And let me tell you, you try and do that on foot, you won't need to exercise for the rest of the month.
Yeah, luckily there's a tap just hidden over the hill, just near Metal Grate, where you can actually stop and pour some water over your head, because that run up the hill is incredible. And quite often you do it. Well, I know you and I both did it in the middle of summer at the Bathurst 12 hours, so it can be quite grueling. Going for the 1000, it can be it can be warm, but not quite as warm. But then you go in the winter, you can end up in a snowstorm where you're trying to do that same walk.
Yeah, of course. There's pictures that have been circulated quite a bit of Mount Panorama with snow in the last couple of years, and certainly like to see a race being done in those conditions. Probably have to give them studded tyres just in case. But Daniel Stevens coming round to start his hot lap, and of course we have an onboard view of what he is dealing with there. Stevens with a very nice setup there, direct drive wheel, triple screens, so he's got a lovely view of everything around him, which you do need around this circuit. It's I can tell you from experience, it's very hard to race competitively around here on a single monitor, because you have to be inch perfect with those walls. Indeed we are. So look out for that at the 1 hour mark of the race. But Daniel Stevens making some good progress on this hot lap. We should point out the charity this round is supporting is Fight Colorectal Cancer. We've had a few members of our community personally affected by colorectal cancer. So it's good to see that we've gotten this charity and showing support for them in this Majors series. You'll see Fight CRC banners, particularly on the Fitstye Motorsport cars. But Daniel Stevens making his way down to the Dipper as Cameron Dance here, one of the Fitstye Motorsport machines already on the weave.
Yep, Josh Nowak's going to be the first driver to post the competitive time, and it looks like it should be P1 based on the sector timings that we can see. So this should be a very, very good banker lap, but there are some other drivers that may be just as competitive throughout. Aaron Stanley looking quick, Thomas Hins looking quick, Scott Stevens also looking quick early on in the lap. There we go, the first banker in the books though is a 2:03.2. Nowak P2, Matt Andrews to P3. See who else comes up near the top of the field.
Indeed, Aaron Stanley doing a 2:03.1 on his first lap. Yep, provisional pole in GT3. Scott Corbin in the Kinetic International Porsche Cayman coming up to the end of a lap as well. Daniel Stevens starting to come up to the final corner. Travis Walling has set the fastest time in GT4, pipped by Dwayne Burns, and then by Daniel Stevens, sets a 2:13.949 for provisional pole in GT4. What can Simon Mazzomo do, meanwhile? Technically teammates there with Cameron Dance, but they got two sub-teams within the Fitstye Motorsport structure. But they're all part of the same stable, and they'll all be helping each other out with their setups and the like. And one of the things that, in particular, the GT4 drivers have to deal with the differences between the Porsche and the BMW is gearing. I did mention before we went live that the BMW GT4, you have to go down another gear coming into Forest Elbow, because it's really between gears. Either you're super high in, I think, first gear, or super low in second gear.
And those first two gears are really weird gears anyway, aren't they? They're almost designed for driving in a car park as opposed for driving on a racetrack. I mean, 7-speed gearbox in those cars as Mizomo crosses the line. And what time does that register, Raz? Doesn't count. So that may have just been an outlap. So starting late. From memory, they are getting 2 laps and only 2 laps. So it means that the pressure is really on these guys. Andrew Waring, though, he looks like he's going to be the one to beat on this lap. Looking at the timing screen, it is purple everywhere.
Indeed it is. Andrew Waring is a guy that I know very well. Way back in the early league racing days, we raced against each other. This was before either of us were on iRacing, so very familiar with Andrew. He's a good guy, and he works very hard at his craft here in sim racing. Coming up then to the final corner. Let's see what he can do. Murray's an incredibly difficult corner to get right. And you see he just turned in a bit early there, clipped the curb. P2 at the moment, but looks like he has slightly improved that time. Unfortunately, still remaining second because Thomas Hins has gone faster than anyone tonight so far. 202.797 up there at the top of the 3 timesheets. Josh Nowak, meanwhile, for Kinetic, former champion of this series, looking to make his mark.
Yeah, I think he's actually done as well. It looks like he's done all of his laps. So I believe, other than Dean Moll, everyone has completed all of their laps. Simon Mizomo is on a very, very good lap at the moment. So he might be one to beat here. Cameron Dance is on a good lap as well. Daniel Stevens has finished his 2 laps. Now, I'm fairly sure the drivers are doing 2 laps. You may be able to correct me on that, race, from what you can see in the session. But from what I understand, it's 2 laps. It may be 4, I could be wrong. But my understanding was it's 2. Either way, it doesn't look like the timing screen is lighting up anywhere near what it was.
Yeah, well, there's technically 4 laps allowed in this session, but I think, if, to put your qualifying setup on the car, do an outlap, that's basically 3 or 4 minutes already locked off the time, so the drivers are going to have to only get 2 laps in. Simon Mizomo doing well enough there for P2, but immediately pipped by Cameron Dance.
Oh, wow, look how close that was.
Yeah, that's very close, and Dance only, 8 thousandths of a second behind Daniel Stevens. I think this GT4 field is going to absolutely fire up when the green flag flies. Josh Nowak doing well enough for P3 there. Once again, very close times, only a few tenths behind Thomas Hins there up at the top, and Scott Newton going to P7 there for Apex Racing Team. And Newton still looking for some luck in this series. He's shown great pace, great competitiveness, but just never seems to quite come together for him.
Yeah, he's been pretty unlucky in every single race that he's done in the series, hasn't he? He hasn't really had anything go right for him. Yeah, and confirming it is 4 laps, but you're not going to be able to do 4 laps based on your outlap time. Getting 3 flyers in, that leaves you with about a minute. So you're not going to be able to do all 4 laps with only a 10-minute session. And the GT4s, well, they've got no hope of doing 4 laps. They're going to struggle to get 3, some of these drivers. Mizomo could go quicker on this last lap if he can make it to the finish line in time. Alexander Sheridan crosses the line, goes quicker but doesn't gain any positions. Wayne Hutchison goes quicker. He does gain a couple of spots for Dogbear, one of our guests in the series, but to see if Mizomo can get down, I don't think he's going to get there in 30 seconds. If he could, he would definitely be going P1.
Yeah, for sure. It's looking like a very quick lap here from Simon Mizomo, but with the way this session is running, if it was an open session, you would be allowed an extra couple minutes after the timer runs out to finish your laps, but Mizomo, considering that this is a solo qualifying session, other cars don't appear on the track for you. The session is over as soon as the timer hits 0, which is right now. And there we go. Simon Mizomo only had 1 corner to go on that lap, but unfortunately couldn't get it in. So that is going to be the grid decided for this round of the International Majors Series. And it is going to be Thomas Hins and Andrew Waring on the front row for GT3. Only 17 thousandths of a second there between the two of them. Josh Nowak and Aaron Stanley up there on row 2 with Harold Stadler and Thomas O'Leary making up row 3. Scott Newton's going to start in 7th alongside our guest Isaac Snyder, and Matt Andrews and Philip Morton round out the top 10 in GT3. There's 18 cars, 20 in this class.
Yeah, there's 20 cars, and I think there's 13 in GT4 in the end. And got Teclis and Stevens on row 6 with Northway and Archer row 7. Schmeier and Barber, I'm hopeless at names, aren't I, Reece? You should know this. D. Mole and Brian Barnes, the 18 that got laps in. Daniel Stevens and Cameron Dance will be the drivers starting on the front row of GT4.
And they'll be followed very closely by Simon Mazzomo and Travis Warling. Dwayne Burns and Lyndon Swaby making up the 12th row of the grid, 5th and 6th in GT4. Alexander Sheridan, we saw him improve right at the end, but unfortunately couldn't quite get close to the times that Swaby and Burns were doing. Jonathan Bain is going to start alongside him, with Scott Corbin, Wayne Hutchison and Eric Intilli rounding out that the field of times for GT4. Marcus Roma is one of the GT3 cars that didn't set times, along with Justin Kirby there, and it's going to be John Sorensen and Shane Bowen making up the last 2 cars in GT4. They weren't able to get a time in the qualifying session. So then, we prepare for the green flag, and it's going to be a rolling start behind the pace car. Everyone's going to grid up on Conrod Straight. Thanks to how long the lap is at Bathurst, iRacing has set it so that if there is a rolling start, the drivers start on Conrod Straight so they don't have to go all the way around the track, because that would be an incredibly long pace lap, and they're already making their way through. So the start here is going to be difficult for these drivers. The tyres and brakes obviously cold, but tyre warmers are used on GT3 cars, so it's not going to be too much of an issue for them. But at least now there's a lot more light on the circuit, so the drivers will be able to see where they're going. And Thomas Hinz is going to make his way through here to the final turn, and the pace car in. All about the start here for Thomas Hinz, and he puts the power down right off the apex, gets a fantastic start, leads them across the line for the start of the Bathurst 2 hour. Andrew Waring managing to hook it up as well with Josh Nowak in P3. Already seeing a move up the inside for Scott Newton, making his way past Isaac Snyder. And he's going to defend that position down to Quarry Corner, but this turn here, which is often called Griffin's Bend, it's got quite a crown in the middle of the road. If you're not on the inside, then you may as well not make the corner at all. And there we see Snyder slotting in behind Scott Newton just to take it easy here. It's a long race. The drivers have to be nice and calm in these opening stages.
Definitely can't win the race at lap 1, but a race like this you can absolutely throw away within an instant just by one small minor move. So making sure you're consistent, keep it under control, very, very crucial. I think getting your race into single file as quick as you can around this track is probably more crucial. Take it easy for the first lap. Wait to understand what other drivers are doing around you. You know that if a driver's matching you for pace in qualifying, they're not going to be slow. They're going to be evenly matched with you in the race because of the nature of the circuit. So knowing your role and just sitting in the right spot and with the other drivers around you, very, very crucial. As we've got a slow car. We've got a car off at McPhillamy Park. It's all dust everywhere, and that's Schmeier. A little bit slow coming down the hill, but a little bit of a breakaway for the front two. Hinz and Waring both starting to break away from Nowak and that pack behind.
Indeed they are. Once they got onto Conrod Straight, just starting to jet away from the rest of our GT3 field, and the fastest corner in Australian motorsport, as Scafie loved to say all the time. The chase, that's going to be one of the prime overtaking opportunities on this circuit. And we haven't talked about this yet, but within a few laps, these guys are going to start coming up on GT4 traffic, and if you come up on a GT4 at the wrong time, around the top of the mountain, there's going to be absolutely nowhere for you to go, and you're going to have to sit behind for quite some time. That could open up the door to a pass from a rival.
100%. Understanding where you are on the track in relation to the alternate class, trying to time your opportunities, and getting a little bit of luck can be the difference between being able to make an overtake or being stuck behind a car for half a lap. which can lose you 3, 4, 5 seconds across the top of the mountain. So, yeah, making sure you time your runs and great traffic management is a big key for the GT3s, more so the GT3s than the GT4s. GT4s still have a little bit tough. They're also racing their own race, so they're not just going to get out of their way, or get out of your way if you're one of the faster GT3s. You're going to have to work for those positions. But as you can see, the GT4 field is probably more closely matched and evenly packed together than the GT3 field is at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see that the all Porsche top three is coming together with Mazzomo and Dance heading up the Fitstyle Motorsport attack there on MFR's Daniel Stevens. Just hanging on to that top four battle is Travis Walling, and Dwayne Burns is in a bit of a no man's land there in P5. He's got a nice gap to Lyndon Swaby up ahead. But Cameron, I noticed on lap one, he got quite a good exit from Quarry Corner versus Daniel Stevens, and I thought for a moment it might be a pass, but Cameron Dance is just electing to stay behind for the time being. And it's going to be very challenging here across the top of the mountain. You see that a lot of the drivers are giving the wall a wide berth there in Metal Grate and taking it nice and easy over the rise to McPhillamy Park. Down here in the S's, this is going to be one of the places where if a GT3 car comes up on you, you've got to be careful not to panic, because those walls are incredibly close, and that big dip through the dipper, incidentally, what a coincidental name there, can very easily throw you off. If you enter that corner wrong, the wall is waiting for you. But a nice exit there from Forest Elbow for Daniel Stevens. The draft, of course, is going to come into play for Cameron Dance.
Noticing kind of cut away from that because we've got an incident down the bottom of the mountain. Not sure who that is. Isaac Schneider, so he is having trouble. Oh, don't do that.
Oh, yeah. Turned around completely out of Murray's corner, and also seeing that Brian Barnes is making his way into the pits in his Mercedes. So fortunately, there's a big gap back to the GT4 field, so Snyder has time to get himself around here, and he's going to get going just ahead of our GT4 leaders. Unfortunately, a couple of taps of the wall there as he made those turns, so a little bit of extra damage for him. Virtual Racing School replay, we'll see what happened to him here. Now, was this just a case of a bit too much curb? Yes, indeed, and around he goes. He kept it out of the wall, actually, initially, which is good to see. Brian Barnes going for the pit lane in Dog Bear Red BMW GT3. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is there, but he's going to be off sync with everyone, and that's going to be very difficult to make up those positions. No change, meanwhile, for our top three in GT4. I think what these guys are thinking about now is just putting their minds forward about 54 minutes to the 1 hour mark, which is when we expect these guys to come in for their stop.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't think we're going to see anything other than the standard 1 hour, or now 3 hour for before pit stops. It's pretty much one strategy fits all. Race by the sounds of things, it sounds like everybody will do the same thing, give or take a couple of laps. So being in second place here at the moment for Cameron Dance could be very, very crucial for him potentially getting an easy move done. Saving fuel behind another car, if you can match them for pace, save fuel, that's a big advantage for you in the pit stop, because it's a lot easier to gain a second in the pits than it is on the track.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially around a track like this where it's so hard to pass. Aaron Stanley, you see, setting the fastest lap so far in GT3, and he's looking quite pacey. And as you can see, Thomas Hins has really broken away from the rest of the GT field now. He's left Andrew Waring behind, and Waring is starting to fall back into the clutches of Josh Nowak. So we might be seeing a bit of a battle here for second place in GT3 pretty soon. Aaron Stanley, of course, running 2/10 faster than Josh Nowak, and Andrew Waring a further 2/10 slower than that. So I think Waring just backing off for a lap or so. Maybe he made a slight mistake. As we check back in with Isaac Snyder all on his lonesome there at the rear of our GT3 field. He's just keeping it nice and calm here. But as you can see from the environment around him, over in America, it is the early hours of the morning, very early hours. So this is, I think, a bit of zen time for Mr. Snyder.
I'm also going to say you'll be probably hoping that we get shots of just the left-hand side of the car, because the right-hand side at the moment looks absolutely horrible. Amount of damage on the side of that car, so he's going to struggle a little bit But of course, the drivers do have a spare car available, so they will. A lot of drivers may just opt just to take it, just in case, come pit stop time. We'll go back to the leaders. There's no real change in that battle at the front of GT4. They're just going to keep it calm, keep it under control. Probably not going to see too much changing, but I think the GT3, we're going to see a lot of chopping and changing because there's drivers that know that they're slightly out of sequence. We saw a few drivers that didn't actually get qualifying times in. They'll be trying to make their way forward as Lewis Pateklis is a name that we've seen quite common here on SimSpeed broadcasts. Been a little while, but good to see him back out on the major series here in the international region.
Indeed, and he's looking quite competitive there, starting to put some pressure on Robert Northway in the Ferrari. It was a very aggressive entry into the chase there for Pateklis. But no move happening for the time being. That's the first bit of GT3 traffic for Brian Barnes. It's Wayne Hutchison there, down in 12th in GT4, currently the last running car. John Sorensen hasn't made it to the grid, neither has... Oh, actually, I'm going to correct myself there. I thought Justin Kirby didn't take the start, but he's running a lap down on the rest of the GT3 field with some fairly heavy damage to his rear wing. That was an incident for him somewhere down the line. But Pateklis in the draft of Robert Northway, and now up towards the top of the mountain. And the Ferrari, compared to the other GT3 cars, is, you would think, the strongest car across the top of the mountain. The Mercedes has the torque thanks to that big old German V8, but the Ferrari, with its mid-engine layout and race-bred chassis, is really strong here through these fast corners across the top.
Got to talk about the livery that Robert Northway is running as well. I sent us a message earlier saying about his livery. It's a bit of a homage to his brother and himself, who used to be one as a mechanic, that being his brother, and he used to be a photographer. We both used to race in the New Zealand Endurance Championship, so I was paying homage to that class, the NZ Endurance Championship, which is pretty cool. I love seeing tribute liveries, not necessarily full throwback liveries, but just liveries that have little segments that pay homage and pay tribute to different factors of your life or people that are important or things that are important to you.
Yeah, exactly. Really nice to see that. Northway is repping that livery beautifully, managing to keep Aldis Pateklis behind him. You see Scott Stevens just up ahead in the Fusion SimRacing BMW. He's actually broken away from these guys in that top 10, and comparing lap times, it looks like he ran 4 tenths faster than Philip Morton on the last lap. So keep an eye out for Scott Stevens pretty soon. It's Philip Morton there, racing behind his teammate Matt Andrews, and there's a nice pack of GT3s there up ahead. Should also point out that Justin Kirby, I think, has retired from the race. He had a bit of a spin at the top of the mountain and escaped back to the pits, and there's a draft there for Aldis Pateklis right on the bumper of Robert Northway, but he's not close enough to go for the move into Quarry Corner. You get a really good sense of the camber of the road on the inside. It's one of those corners that really is a one-line affair, particularly in the early stages of a race like this. So also at the cutting, it's quite difficult to get yourself up the inside of another car and make a move work. But Pateklis, for now, I think just allowing Robert Northway to jet ahead a little over the top of the mountain and draft back up to him down the straights.
Yeah, exactly right. As they approach the highest part of the circuit right there, and there we go, the sun is up. And that's a little mistake from Northway. I reckon Northway just got distracted from that sunlight.
Yeah, must have. And that was almost a move there for Aldis Pateklis, but this early in the race, you certainly don't want to be going for moves like that, so he stays behind again. But that is a chink emerging in Robert Northway's armour that Pateklis can exploit down into Forest Elbow. Let's see what the exit is like for those guys.
Pateklis is having some tech issues.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's no good. He's completely disappeared from the circuit, and Robert Northway is on his own. Well, hopefully that doesn't turn out to be terminal for Aldis Pateklis' race, but I think at the very least he's going to be set back by that technical issue, because I still can't see him there on the circuit. Travis Warling running 4th in GT4. This top 5 pack in GT4 has well and truly broken away from the rest of the GT4 field. And Lyndon Swaby has started to make some progress up towards this top 5 pack as well. He's all on his lonesome right now, but there's quite the battle, I think. Oh no, I just seen some contact there. Brian Barnes has made contact with Jonathan Bain, and Ben has been sent into the wall through, I think that was Reed Park that happened.
Wow.
So there's some big damage there for the MFR Pro car. That's going to have to be to the pits and repairs for Jonathan Bain. That might be worth a replay just to see what the difficulties are of navigating traffic up the mountain. And Jonathan Bain, obviously,
He's not
quite
happy.
unhappy with how things have gone there. But Bain turned in for Reed Park while Brian Barnes was alongside. The move had technically already been made, but I think Bain expecting Barnes to stay behind there. You see Barnes in the BMW GT3 coming up on him here, makes the move up the inside, and then bam, into the wall for both of them just about. But Jonathan Bain really getting the short end of the stick there.
Yeah, no wonder he's disappointed. I mean, sure, it's a faster car coming through, but it's also a spot where, number one, you don't really see too wide ever happening, let alone interclass when there's no need for it, if that makes sense. I mean, sure, Barnes is trying to make his way back through the field, but Ben was in a battle with 3 other cars at the same time, so a little bit of give and take there from Barnes may have been a little bit more beneficial, and for him to drive away and not have anything, and Jonathan Ben to limp it back to the pits. You could see on the onboard that he had a meatball flag, so he's going to have to come in, get his spare car and go again, and hope for his sake that he can get back out there without losing too much time. Of course, no safety cars as well. Just seeing Josh Nowak off the circuit. There's another car off as well. That is Jonathan Ben. So I think Nowak may have just got distracted by that car of Jonathan Ben as he's trying to limp it back to the pits. That's opened up a huge now 4-car battle for second place.
Yeah, certainly has. And wow, that was quite a close call for Josh Nowak, I have to say. Aaron Stanley got involved with it as well. And Nowak, I think, might have been distracted by Ben there going through the gravel trap, just wondering what he was going to do. But you see he gets a bit of oversteer on, pushes a bit too hard into the chase, and then has to recover, barely avoids making contact with the 2 other cars around him, and Aaron Stanley having to gather it up there.
That was very close, wasn't it? That could have been disastrous, and well done for Andrew Waring to just make his way past without creating contact. Now, this is where it's going to get really interesting. Traffic time. Just seen Wayne Hutchison just ahead of these guys. He's already been lapped by these cars because he is having a little bit of trouble after those early incidents. That was way too close for comfort. This is going to be messy come the end of the race once fatigue sets in, because this isn't a 2-hour endurance race. This is a 2-hour sprint. These races have changed altogether in the way that they're run. We've seen it in real world. We're seeing it in sim racing. We don't have endurance races anymore. We just have long sprints.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be that, you know, endurance races were all about taking care of the car, making sure that you could get it to the end of the race. But real-life racing technology has progressed to the point that modern racing cars are effectively indestructible when you push them so hard for long periods of time. And, of course, sim racing being what it is, you don't have half the dangers that you face in real life. Stuff like mechanical failures, having to pay for damage and all that sort of stuff. That's not as big of an issue in sim racing. So the drivers can afford to push much harder over longer periods of distance. So it is an interesting change that endurance racing has undergone, but I certainly think for the better. It's made real-life endurance races and ones in sim racing very exciting.
100%. We're both endurance racing fans anyway, but to see the shift over the last 10, 12 years has been incredible, whether it be GT racing or World Endurance Championship, Bathurst 1000, Bathurst 12 Hour, any other Daytona 24. They have all changed the full spectrum of how they're run, and as you said, it's not just all down to the way that the cars are as well. The drivers are fitter, so they mentally can drive at that level for so much longer too. Is Aaron Stanley's going to try and make this move? It's not a place you can really do it. Oh no, I knew that was going to happen.
Josh Nowak's on his roof. Or can he get it back on all 4 wheels? No, unfortunately. That's going to be a tow back to the pits for Josh Nowak. And I'm not too sure how to call that incident because, I mean, obviously Stanley made his way alongside. He had overlap just about at the turn-in point, but I don't think he was up far enough to make that move work. So Josh Nowak, I think, will feel very hard done by this. Nowak, of course, on the racing line and going for the turn-in, and Stanley, well, the gap was just closing, and there was nothing that Nowak could do from that point. Very hard into the barriers at Quarry Corner, and on his roof, he's going to lose quite a bit of time out of that.
Yeah, the other part for that corner there too is if he did back out of it as well, there's a chance that he'd end up in the wall anyway because of the way that the camber works in that corner. It's just so tough to get too wide at any point. So that's unlucky there for Josh Nowak, and former champion hasn't had much luck since that championship run, has he, in this series? Every time he's come back to run, the only luck he's had has been bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real shame to see. Hopefully, Josh Nowak can rediscover his mojo, and we can see him up the front of the field where he belongs in this series. Got an update on Uldis Peteklis as well. Apparently, that's a retirement for him. He's disconnected from the server. There's been a spin, meanwhile, at the chase for Eric Intilli. He's currently stopped by the side of the track in his BMW GT4. He's managed to get going again, so fortunately, that's going to be all right for him. But it looks to me like that was just a mistake that Intilli made on his own. No, actually, it was contact with Andrew Waring. You'll see Waring come up on him here, go for the outside, and just pushes Intilli in the rear and turns him round.
Tell you what, that was a very, very ugly overtake there, wasn't it? That was, have a look at the damage to the front of Eric Intilli's car. That was, this is the first go round of the GT3s and the GT4s, and to see the second place car make contact as Matt Andrews tried to make the move on Scott Newton, had to go the long way around, and he decided to back out of it. And that was what I was just talking to there too. Being on the outside through Griffin's Bend, the camber means that you really can just flow wide into the wall. So unlucky there for Andrews. He's lost, maybe a second just by trying to make a move, and now under pressure from his teammate in Philip Morton.
Indeed, and have a look at all of this going on. It's truly a mixture of traffic now, and Morton there behind Matt Andrews, making his way past Shane Bowen on the run up to Skyline. Scott Stevens is also involved in this as well, in the BMW just behind. He's elected to stay behind. Scott Stevens, of course, one of the original runners of the Australian Endurance Championship in the AusNZ sim racing community, so he knows his way around multi-class racing, and has elected to stay behind there. And Bowen going wide in Forest Elbow. Stevens taken advantage of that and trying to stay ahead of Robert Northway, who's gained a massive advantage out of Stevens being held up through the S's here.
Yeah, Northway was a long way back, wasn't he? Now all of a sudden he's right there. As just seeing Josh Nowak is coming back out of the pits and will stay on the lead lap. So that's a positive for him out of that. Also seeing that Eric Intilli has continued on, no damage that has caused that car to maybe want to come into the pits at this stage. Morton's still applying pressure to Matt Andrews. Matt Andrews, as we saw, was side by side with Newton coming up through Griffin's Bend. In that one lap, he's now 1.5 seconds behind based on just running wide, which then caused him to catch the traffic at the wrong point. There's the good luck story versus the bad luck story. Within one corner, has caused 1.5 seconds over this lap. It is so tough to get a move done, and sure, he's now going to get his focus back in and try again. But that could happen on the next lap as well, or another 2 laps time as they come back up to more traffic, because it won't be far away before they've got more again.
Yeah, exactly, especially as the GT4 field gets more spread out with these GT3 cars making their way through, slowing certain drivers up, getting battles in tune once again. Looks like it's pretty clean so far. And Thomas Hiddens has gained a massive advantage then through all of that. He's cleared all of the GT4 traffic. And, well, Andrew Waring here trying his best to keep up the pace, but as he's behind our top 3 in GT4 now, he's going to have to stay behind for the next couple of corners. Back from Travis Walling, meanwhile, that's the battle between Harold Stadler and Thomas O'Leary, so that could be a potential move there. Stadler had to slightly compromise his exit from Forest Elbow there, go a little bit narrow, but it doesn't seem to have hurt him too much. O'Leary trying to stick in the draft, and these guys both know that they'll be able to race at full speed up to the chase before they come up to our top three. Andrew Waring there just making his way past Daniel Stevens, and Stevens had to miss the first apex of the chase slightly. That's a very scary spot for a pass to happen.
Definitely is, especially when the... Not just in normal... Oh, normal... Oh, no! Teammates make contact!
Oh no, that's going to be bad. A lot of avoiding action. Oh, that's very lucky there for Simon Mazzomo. Managed to get it off the track and onto the pit lane, and he's going to get that thing going, but I think he's going to be fairly hacked off by that one. That's going to be a virtual racing school replay. Let's see how that all worked out.
It's continued now that I've gone on the replay. I shouldn't have clicked that button that early.
Oh, well, we'll stay on the replay then, because, well, Mazzomo, I don't think he was sure which way to go there. Because, you know, you got two GT3s coming up behind you at that rate of speed. Very difficult to pick a line, and Scott Stevens there going for the move at the final corner. No, just the car ahead of him going for the move at the final corner is... Oh, no! That was huge! Big incident there, and huge damage for Scott Stevens.
That was Matt Andrews.
Oh, no. So something obviously happened to Andrews coming out of Murray's corner.
Grass on the outside.
Grass on the outside, and he was just a passenger at that point.
Yeah.
There was nowhere for Stevens to go.
That's unlucky for Scott Stevens. It's just a unfortunate chain reaction from that one little moment. Again, lap traffic causing mayhem, and no real fault with Mazzomo. Mazzomo didn't know which way to go and thought he was doing the right thing, but at that point, Stadler didn't know where to go, and then O'Leary followed through, because I don't think Stadler would have been that aggressive if he didn't have O'Leary so close. So what a massive chain reaction that is. And that has absolutely thrown a curveball into this field. Andrew Waring is out of the race by the looks of things as well. He's towed back to the pits. What happened to him? We've missed that.
That's a spin at turn 2. He's run just a little bit wide of the racing line, got caught on the marbles, and then spun it. Here's what happened. Yeah, just a car width wide of the apex and off the racing line. There's no grip out there, so around Andrew Waring went, and that's an immediate tow back to pits. Yeah. I mean, he didn't necessarily need to, but I think with where he was, that would have been a very tough spot to get the car going again, especially with the field as spread out as it is now. So hopefully Andrew Waring can get back out there.
No, he's quit. He's quit the race. He's out.
Oh,
done.
No. That is a big shame there. Could have had a great race for the lead there with Thomas Hinz, who is now dominating the GT3 class. He's over 11 seconds ahead of the battling pair of Stadler and O'Leary. But Daniel Stevens and Cameron Dance, the two survivors from that former top 3 battle in GT4. Dance doesn't have any help now from Simon Mazzomo. He is solo in his pursuit here of the MFR machine, and Matt Andrews also making it back to the pits. Robert Northway is elected to go for pit lane as well. We would have seen Robert Northway slow up there at the final corner when Scott Stevens and Matt Andrews had their contact. So I reckon he's elected to just go for the pits now to avoid some of that carnage.
I think there was contact there when Stevens went around. I think he made fairly heavy contact with Scott Stevens, so probably damaged the front end. I think Stevens has actually got away. No, he hasn't. I was about to say, I think Stevens has got away with it better than Northway and Andrews did, but now seeing his car, there's no way he got away with that at all. That looks horrible.
Yeah, and it's,
or is it an improvement with that BMW front?
Yeah, I know. Your mileage may vary on that kidney grille. Robert Northway making his way back out onto the circuit. And so there, I think that's Matt Andrews making his way back out as well. They've gotten their spare cars. But it's a real shame for Scott Stevens because, you know, making that heavy contact just out of the final corner, he had just passed the pit entry. So he's had to go an entire lap with a heavily damaged front end, which has cost him even more time. Yeah,
and it's probably at the point where you can't even try and sneakily reverse it through that little gap in the wall, because then you get an unsafe pit entry and you get extra penalties. So just lapping it around nice and steady, bringing it back to the pits. You'll get back out there in a few moments. Unscheduled pit stop as well, so you might as well top the fuel up while you're in the pits and go again. Tell you what, Hinzy's flying at the moment, just back-to-back fastest laps of the race. Only driver at the moment doing 2:03s in that class. For reference, the GT4s doing 2 minute 17s in our lead pack. Fastest car in GT4 at the moment is Travis Walling in 3rd place. Last lap by did a 2:16.1. So Daniel Stevens doesn't know what to do here because he's got these guys right there beside him. That being Gavin Barber and in the other car, sorry, that was Dean Mole and Clark Archer just going through there.
All right, well, they made it through cleanly at turn 1. Good to see. And it looks like Stevens hasn't lost much time, if any, to Cameron Dance. I think, if anything, he's actually gained a little bit now. There's more of a gap there. And the top 3 spaced out equally now in GT3. So this is going to be the chance that Travis Walling is waiting for. Ran a 2:15.69 on the last lap and is looking quite competitive there in his BMW. So we'll see how that top 3 battle develops over the next half hour.
As conditions change throughout the race too, we're going to see different cars be stronger and weaker too. So some cars are going to be better when there's no heat in the track at all, basically the sunrise. Once there's a bit of temperature in the track or a little bit of rubber down, a different car will start to come good. By the end of the race, we're going to see it completely different again once the track's fully worn in, rubber's built up, marbles everywhere. But I'll tell you what, that sunlight there, that was pretty full on. It just noticed that, it nearly blinded me off my own screen there. So yeah, very, very bright, that sun. And if anyone is unsure as to whether that is realistic, that is ultra realistic. It's not called Skyline for nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you what, it's a very nice place to sit and watch the start of the Bathurst 12 hour. Yeah, 5:30 in the morning, you know, going there a couple of years ago and waking up in the tent, camping up the top in the McPhillamy Park camping area. You see the big orange rays of the sun coming up over the Blue Mountains in the distance and contrasting that with the light beams of the cars as they make their way across the top of the mountain, and then just that wall of sound as they approach you and pass you. It's a fantastic experience and one that I recommend to be put on every racing fan's bucket list. Cameron Dance, meanwhile, started to catch back up to Daniel Stevens here. And
well, Stevens made a mistake.
Oh no, yeah, and that's going to offer up an opportunity to the Ferrari. And that's going to be Marcus Römer making his way through, but oh no! Gone very deep on the brakes and almost pushed Daniel Stevens off the circuit. There's going to be some damage there for Daniel and opening up an opportunity here for Cameron Dance to make his way by. Actually, it looks like no damage there for Daniel Stevens, but there was certainly contact. I think Römer was a little bit over-aggressive with that pass.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as well, based on the momentum that Dance had, if there wasn't those GT3 cars around, Dance would have made the move. But I think he thought, no, I'm just going to back out of it, wait for those guys to get out of the way and jump back in behind. I think he's quite content just saving fuel in this stint and then getting the move done through pit stops rather than anything else at the moment. He just looks way more comfortable sitting in that second place. But with Travis Walling being the car behind him now and quite close, I think he might be a little bit more concerned than when he had his teammate in Mazzomo right behind him.
Yeah, exactly. Walling is really drawn up to the back of these guys thanks to that traffic. But yeah, I reckon Dance might be saving a tiny bit of fuel here behind Daniel Stevens. Of course, it's not really a fuel limited race, but if you can spend some time behind the car in front, just lifting and coasting a little bit, especially across the top of the mountain, that's going to be less fuel that you have to put in at your pit stop in order to get home, and that can gain you some crucial time in the pit stops. That's what Cameron Dance is going to be hoping for.
Yeah, if he can gain enough fuel to maybe pit 2 laps later, that's 2 laps less of fuel that you'll need to put in the car at the pit stop, which could be 5 seconds at the pit stop. So easy to get 5 seconds, especially when you can see pace-wise, qualifying there was, 8 thousandths of a second between them, so nothing. Lap time-wise, nothing between them. Fastest lap in the race, nothing between them, half a tenth of a second. So these two guys are pretty much even in every aspect. Gaining 4 or 5 seconds at the pit stop is crucial. And I think Daniel Stevens knows what's going on behind him. He knows that Cam is not going to make the move. I think Stevens isn't making mistakes as such. He's doing things intentionally in the hope that Dance goes, no, I'm going to go past, so that Stevens can be the one saving the fuel. I think that's what's going on here. The mind games are going on. It's nothing to do with it. Oh, smoke there. That's an unusual spot to say it. Nothing to do with Dance not wanting to get through or the cars being so even that no one's making a move. The mind games are going on here that much that the reverse psychology is starting to come into it.
Yeah, it's as much of a mental game as it is a physical game in racing, be it virtual or real. And you see Daniel Stevens moving behind Isaac Snyder to get a little sniff of a draft, save a little bit of fuel himself coming into turn 2. Once again, Cameron Dance is, I mean, you can see that he's got his concentration face on, but that's more him versus the circuit than him versus Daniel Stevens.
Yeah, he's probably just watching what Stevens is doing in regards to times and things like that more than anything else. He's watching the fuel numbers as much as anything else right now and trying to work out whether he's actually gaining fuel versus Stevens, or whether Stevens, who is pretty good at fuel saving himself. So, while Dance is doing this, he may not even be gaining anything at all.
Yeah, exactly. So there's obviously no way of knowing, though, between these drivers. They can only focus on their own race and try and do the best they can with the cards that they've been dealt. But Stevens and Dance started to break away there from Travis Walling as the battle for second in GT3 starting to heat up. Harold Stadler still ahead of Thomas O'Leary, but tell you what, O'Leary looking a little bit faster at the moment, gained 3/10 on the last lap, and they've got Aaron Stanley behind them as well, who is really looking to make some improvements. Remember, Stanley was the fastest car on track early on in the race, so hopefully for him, he's got a setup that can deal with the rising temperatures here.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well that O'Leary hasn't been able to get a move done on Stadler, but as you said, the lap last time by was fairly different, but every time that O'Leary has got close enough to get a move, traffic has come and interfered. Every single time, like probably 3 times that he's been there close enough to get a move done, it's ended up looking like he's being able to get a move done, and then bang, 3 or 4 cars in the wrong spot at the wrong time, can't get it done. And that can make it really frustrating for you as the faster class car, because you may think, geez, I'm so much quicker, or I've got much more pace in A spot, B spot. And have a look how much faster he was across the top of the mountain there.
Yeah.
There was maybe a little scrape on the wall there for Harold Stadler. But now, again, close enough to get a move done, but is he going to have to back out of it just purely based on traffic? There is a chance that he might not be able to actually get the move done because they're going to catch these cars at the wrong spot at the wrong time again.
Indeed they are. So, big lift there for Wayne Hutchison, letting them both go there. And that's going to open him up to an attack from Eric Antilli, who makes his way past at the chase. And Hutchison, I think, just trying his best there to stay out of the way. And Antilli's going to stay to driver's left here to let Aaron Stanley go. But between Stadler and O'Leary, it's closer than ever across the line. 2:04.1 for Stadler and 2:03.924 for Thomas O'Leary. A little bit of extra traffic here in the form of Simon Mazzomo, who will be very familiar there with the battle between Stadler and O'Leary.
Yeah, if you're looking at Harold and going, hey, mate. They have
We're
said,
teammates. Excuse me.
They have said that it is very, very interesting hearing Harold getting quite aggressive in sim. Of course, being based in Austria, speaking German, it does portray things a little bit differently when he gets aggressive within the teammates, especially when he's surrounded by Brits and Aussies. It's a little bit of a contrast. O'Leary looks so strong across the top here, but I'm just looking at the track map. Guess what they're going to catch in the passing opportunity that O'Leary's look strong? You're going to have traffic at the chase again.
Yeah, looks
and
like
at Forest
they
Elbow
are.
too, by the looks.
Oh man, that's gonna be quite interesting for these guys. Stadler and O'Leary down through the S's. You see how much more comfortable it seems Thomas O'Leary is on the brakes. He's just able to gain on Stadler in the braking zones, but once they get to corner exit, Stadler seems to have a slight advantage, and the difference in lines through Forest Elbow as well. It looks like O'Leary had to compromise himself a bit there versus Harold Stadler. It looks to me like traffic, no such traffic coming down to the chase and Forest Elbow this time
My
round.
track maps deceived me. Actually,
Yes.
I know why. It was the GT3 car ahead of them. I thought it was the GT4 that they were going to be able to catch, or were going to catch, just based on the difference. But car in front, I believe, is Scott...
Brian Barnes.
Brian Barnes, okay, so that is the car. One lap down. Thought it may have been Scott Stevens, who was actually the last runner overall. He had a 4-minute pit stop after that damage. So huge damage for him in that. I'm guessing that Stevens has opted to just fix his car rather than take his spare car and see what happens, and then maybe take his spare car later on, or come back in and take it if he needs to. But trying to fight it out, might get to an hour to go and then come back in, splash in some fuel, fresh set of tyres, go again. It's a little bit of a unknown as to what way to go when you're in that situation. Do you just sit it out, or do you risk it and then think, oh, why did I do that, when you get taken out the next time in something similar or worse?
Yeah, that's the issue that drivers have to face, especially around a track like this. You can't afford to take your spare car too early in the race, because if something happens to you later on, like it undoubtedly will at Bathurst, it's a place that can bite you in an instant. It'll certainly set you back a fair way if you take your spare car right at the start and then you have another crash. So it'll be interesting to see what Scott Stevens can do from this point on, as Stadler and O'Leary closer than ever. Got some news on Robert Northway, meanwhile. He had a hit of the wall and a spin at Reed Park, and he has become another retirement from this race. That's a big shame.
I just made a funny noise there because I thought there was contact between O'Leary and Stadler coming down the mountain. Of course, this is going to be a little bit awkward as well, because O'Leary being based in the UK, as we said, Stadler being Austrian, we're racing on Australian servers, so they're both going to have a lot of ping between them based on the fact that we're racing on Australian servers. Being an international region, it's mainly designed for AusNZ Asia, so these guys are going to have to think about that when they make their moves. Any other driver, they may not have that issue. But both being European drivers, they're going to have to think a little bit more around giving each other that tiny extra little bit of space. Because if they don't, it could end in tears for both.
Yeah, certainly could. But they'll want to. Oh, yeah, you just saw there. That was contact, and the cars were nowhere near each other. That is the ping in action. So that's a spot lost there for Harold Stadler. O'Leary now ahead by quite a margin.
If you understand. New to the series, or new to iRacing, new to sim racing in general, the ping that we're talking about, or the net code, as some people like to call it, is the prediction of what is going to happen. Of course, you can't actually force the information across the world at real time, because the speed of light is such a thing. So the prediction model sort of estimates on where someone's car should be. And sometimes it's not 100% perfect. I must say that iRacing has probably got it the best out of almost everyone, but it's not perfect, but neither is the internet. We both know that, Reece. I know I used to know that at my old house, and you still have troubles with it. Had a conversation with someone that they were having issues with the internet at home, and they had a doorbell on their house that was installed in the 80s that was causing their internet to cause issues.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's welcome to life in Australia, everybody.
Two tin cans with a piece of string can be more reliable internet than what we've got over here.
Yeah, exactly.
The sad thing is, people think we're joking.
Yeah. Trust me, we are not. Australia has some of the worst internet in the developed world. Hopefully, that changes sometime in the next 10 years.
Speaking of changes, are you seeing what's on screen right now?
I am. Cameron Dance has fallen back into third place, and Travis Warling up into second. So there's been a move there somewhere along the line. Might Cameron Dance
off track, or his lap time didn't register? So I'm thinking he's had an issue with his internet and backed out, because he had been blinking a couple of times. And look how frustrated he is on his face. All that work is all gone. All of that hard work he was doing, no more.
Yeah, that's a big shame there. I did go back and take a look, and Dance did disappear at the start of the previous lap, only came back into existence at the exit of this corner, turn 2. So an awful lot of time lost there. And, you know, when you're a driver, and problem for Eric and Tilly in the S's, managed to get back going again. We'll catch a quick replay of that one.
He's crabbing from a long way back.
Oh, yeah, there's
more to this.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that's obviously happened on the way up the hill.
I'm going to say turn 3, turn 4, up through the cutting. Run wide at the cutting and hit the outside wall. That's my guesstimation of what's going on. That's it for
All right,
right.
well, let's see. Indeed, gets into the cutting, and oh yeah, the car.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, that was a fair whack there. That's knocked the suspension completely off kilter. So Eric Antilli is going to have to come into the pits and grab his spare car for that one. Otherwise, he's going to be in the pits for quite some time.
Yep, I didn't know that BMW's got crabs, but there's one with some right now. That does not look healthy at all. Antilli will be fighting that back to the pits too. They're not easy to drive at the best of times, but driving them around Mount Panorama is tougher. Driving them around Mount Panorama with right hand down 30% and not being able to go over 80 k's an hour, that's very, very hard. Good job getting it back.
Indeed, he has made it back to the pits. A very interesting pit entry here at Mount Panorama. It's effectively a corner you've got to navigate in and of itself. So Antilli then into the pits and not having a great run there at the back of the GT4 field. Looks to me like he's elected to take repairs on that car rather than take his spare car. Aaron Stanley, meanwhile, in the draft of his teammate Harold Stadler, who is still trying to recover and get back onto the back of Thomas O'Leary, but it looks like the pace has just not been there for Harold.
Yeah, and Stanley backed out of the throttle then too, so I'm not sure if it was purely because he wants to save fuel or he's wanting to help Harold. Of course, Stadler was a championship contender last season. He was right up there in the fight for the championship win, so that could be a team tactic as well as to, you know, maybe help the drivers that I think have the chance at the overall crown later on in the championship. But no, I think it's just that Aaron Stanley's saving fuel. We can add anything like that into these sort of stories because some of them have some merit. There are a lot of guys, as we said before, that are thinking championship already. Sure, it's round 3. We've got a 14-round championship. They're thinking championship now because one bad result now, especially at a race like Bathurst, can really hurt you because this is such a competitive field. And if a competitive driver takes a nice big win at this point, like Thomas Hin's out by 15 seconds, that's painful for some of these guys, championship-wise, later on.
Indeed it is. You know, every single race matters in a championship like this. But checking in with Thomas Hinz, there's a GT4 car off just behind him, one of the BMWs. That was Travis Warling, who it looks like Cameron Dance back ahead of him now. So Warling's obviously had an off at McPhillamy Park, and that has allowed Dance to get back on by. Thomas Hinz with the big old concentration face, and I've just gone back to take a look at Warling, and Hinsey passed him at McPhillamy, which was what sent him wide there.
Yeah, just he was probably being too nice to Hinsey, and I'm surprised he didn't end up in the wall there. That's actually some very, very good car control to not end up in the fence.
Yeah, well recovered there for Warling. The BMW GT4 is notorious, even with recent updates, for being particularly hard to drive. It can be a tough mistress, but going for a big old bounce across the gravel trap and managing to keep it going like he did, and just slowing down in time for Cameron Dance to slip on back by. So the battle's going to continue between those two, but Daniel Stevens is further ahead now than he has ever been in the lead of the GT4 class. 2.8 seconds now back to Dance.
Yep, but Dance is now not saving fuel. He's going full throttle because there's no point trying to save 5 seconds in the pit stop if the guy that you're trying to battle with is already 5 seconds ahead. So he needs to get the foot down, get back onto the rear of Daniel Stevens and try and stick with him. And I think Daniel Stevens has dropped it back, decided, well, I'm going to make Dance think that he's going to have to work hard here. Drop back by speed to 99%. Make Dance use all of that fuel, and I'm going to save in retaliation. He might even save as much as what Dance did in that first 20-odd minutes, just by dropping it back to 99% here now. This is a really interesting fight. This is really open. GT4, when we looked at the entry list, we thought GT4 is going to be tight and competitive. But I think it's even more tight and competitive than we were expecting. It's really, really open, and anyone in that top 5 at the moment could win just based on fuel strategy, pit stop strategy, and traffic.
Yeah, there's so many variables into the race. Result here is that was a mistake for Daniel Stevens at McPhillamy. Took a bit too much of the outside curb there, and well done to avoid getting it into the wall and to keep it going like he did, but you don't want to be repeating that too much.
And I didn't quite click that button to get Daniel Stevens up on screen quick enough, but you should have seen the look on his face. I'm sure you can imagine what it was. And there's the big deep breath. the big deep breath, the big sigh, and the wow that he didn't end up in the wall. He's going to get the focus back on again and go again. That was a scary little moment. What it's done is pretty much given Cam Dance an extra second to catch back up, and Dance has got draft as well now. So that extra little bit of fuel saving and all of that stuff, it's back on again. I've just seen Dean Mole. Whoa, okay, that's probably why Dean Mole's going slow.
Yeah, righto. So that's something that's happened across the top of the mountain. Let's see what happened then. Thanks once again to our replay partner, Virtual Racing School. It looks like it happened at McPhillamy, and Mole was all on his own.
Yep, he's hit the outside curb at the exit of McPhillamy Park, right-hand tyres off the curb, and then across the track into the inside wall. Very, very common mistake we see on iRacing. When we see it in real life, it probably doesn't end quite as painful as what we see in iRacing, but still a very, very scary mistake, and big, big accident for Dean Mole. Positive thing is he's not too far away from the legitimate time that they'd all come into the pits anyway, so if you're going to make a mistake, you might as well do it around now, because you can probably make it home once you come in and make your pit stop.
Yeah, exactly right, and there he goes into the pit lane, taking out a couple of the bollards on the way as well. But back on board then with Daniel Stevens as he makes his way up the mountain. It's such a tough circuit in these GT4 cars, and further to the point I was talking about in qualifying about the gear ratios from these things. GT4 cars, their gear ratios, I think, are based on the gear ratios of the road car that they're based on. So it's the reason why the BMW's lower gears are so low as they are. The Porsche Cayman here, you can use a bit more of the power band on the exit of corners like Forest Elbow, but you still got to make some interesting choices for gearing around certain circuits that you might not expect.
Yep. And of course the downfall, as you said, across the top of the mountain that the BMW has, it makes it all back in other sectors of the track. So the circuit probably is really cut into two, isn't it, here at Bathurst? You've got the run from Forest Elbow all the way up to Griffin's Bend, and then from Griffin's Bend all the way back across the other side. But in that as well, the small little areas, there's so many ebbs and flows throughout this track, isn't there? Have a look at how much Dance just gained under brakes there with that car of Scott Stevens going through. He's back on for the lead again, and Dance, is he just going to sit behind? Of course he is. He's not going for this.
Yeah, nah. No, certainly not. Stevens, of course, had to go wide there in the chase, and that's a place where going wide can cost you an incredible amount of time. Dance right on the rear bumper of Stevens, and again, he's not showing any sign of going for a move, and I think Stevens might just be looking in his mirrors thinking, what are you doing, Cam? Come on, man.
Just go through, Cam. Go on. Just
go for it.
Just go. Don't hold back.
They got another GT3 coming up on them into the braking zone here. It's Philip Morton who's going to be coming on through, but he'll get by the time they get to the braking zone, so no harm, no foul between them. Stevens had to compromise himself slightly on entry there, which brought Dance back into contention for a move that we are sure he is not going to make.
That's the perfect way.
Having said that...
No, his commentator's cursed in a different way. I think that was a little bit of a misstep there from Dance. I don't think he intended that. Actually, looking over at his face, that was definitely a mistake, and he's laughing now like, ooh, that was a big error. I must say that, Risa, I might have to set you up for tomorrow night for V8 Scop, so you can see the drivers' reactions when something like that happens, because it will change your whole perspective on how the race plays out.
Yeah, certainly. I would like that. Would be nice to see.
We'll set you up tomorrow.
Excellent. Sounds good. This battle continuing, and it's going to be decided for sure in the pit stops, but we're not sure how much either of these guys have saved. We're not sure how long their pit stop is going to be. With only 8 minutes left until the hour mark, the time is going to come very shortly. Another deep breath there for Daniel Stevens, and there's something that you got to do every time you come out of Forest Elbow. As long as you nail that exit, stay out of the wall on the right-hand side, that's the opportunity for you to have a slight rest down Conrod Straight. But even then, This track doesn't give you many opportunities to calm yourself down because there's the bumps, obviously. There's the crown in the road because it is a public road. You're really driving your car at 100% the whole way around here, even down the straights.
Yo, Conrad Straight, I mean, there is that little kink at the start, so you've got to make sure you position your car in the right spot, especially if you're in traffic or, you know, you've got a slower car around you, making sure that you actually get that done at the right time or get yourself in the right spot. And then, as you said too, the crown in the road, positioning your car in the right spot on that crown of the road can actually be the difference between 1 or 2 kilometers at the chase turn-in. So, you know, making sure that you're there in the right spot down Conrad Straight and also up Mountain Straight can be huge as well. Of course, it's very, very deceptive. You don't really see it when you're watching, but being in the car, the run up Mountain Straight, going over that crest at the winery under the Petters Bridge, if you're up too far to the right, you'll actually break into wheel spin because you'll launch all 4 wheels off the road.
Yeah, there's so many spots around this circuit where specific car placement is incredibly important, and you see that happen quite a bit in real life racing as well. The drivers will try their best to get over to drivers left around that crest to avoid said wheel spin, and even down here, coming down Skyline through the S's, you've got to be very careful not to take too much of that inside curb because it can very easily unsettle your car. And of course, you're on the brakes. You're trying your best to slow down for the dipper, and the brakes are already working as hard as they possibly can. So any bump that you encounter on the way down the hill can really mess up your run. Remember, both classes of car here have traction control and anti-lock brakes available to them, but even then, driver aids can't save you from everything around a track like this.
No, you still need a little bit of talent, don't you? That's why I always end up in the wall.
Me too.
You've got more talent than me.
Yeah. Couple less wall bangs, I think, around here. Through the chase, you see how much the car pivots and bounces across those bumps if you take too much curb. The curbs here are quite substantial. You really want to avoid them for the most part in these cars.
Yeah, especially in the GT4s. I mean, the V8s, you see them bounce over the curbs, but even then they unsettle the car in bizarre ways and push you wide. And I've found that the curbs on the outside, the exit of the corners, are the ones that draw you in and cause you the most errors, because if you run too wide, then you end up on the grass, and the grass here is very, very slick, very, very slippery. And we've already seen a few times where drivers, especially McPhillamy Park's probably the prime example of that across the top. If you end up too wide, you use the curb, and then the next lap you use a little bit more curb, and then you use a little bit more curb, and then there's no more curb, and you end up in the wall like we saw Dean Mole do earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Mount Panorama, it gives and it takes, and have a look at that. That is a beautiful shot there with the sun just peeking up over the trees at the cutting. The track, of course, will continue to heat up. It's still at around 23 degrees at the moment, so not much of a difference from when we started off, but you'll notice as the race wears on, the track temp will rise and it'll get a little bit slipperier. Of course, there's the battle going on here for the lead in GT4, but the battle for fourth in GT4 as well is something that we should take a look at. Dwayne Burns and Lyndon Swaby.
Oh yeah, I looked at my timing before and I didn't see it was under a second. So they've ebbed and flowed a fair bit, these two. Last lap, Swaby was 3/10 quicker. Previous laps, they really have ebbed and flowed, these two, haven't they? They've stretched it out to about 2.5 seconds, got it back down to less than a second, and this is probably the closest Swaby's been in a long time.
Yeah, certainly is. But going to encounter a GT3 here of Gavin Barber, another one of the MFR machines, and he's got in hot pursuit Isaac Snyder, and that's going to be a battle for position. Swaby losing out a little bit there on Conrad Straight, and Snyder is going to come up on him right at the chase, going to go for the move in the braking zone. A big bounce, yes indeed, across the curbs, and Snyder manages to make it through there, gets into the grass on the exit though, but move completed for the time being.
Oh, look at the bounce of the car again. Watch this as he comes through here. Watch the car bounce right there. Oh, 2 wheels off the ground.
Leaving the ground. Goodness me.
And you're
That would
turning
be
in at the
very
fastest
scary.
point too. Like, that's... I've never seen a car launch the front 2 wheels off the ground through that kink. Ever. But I have now.
Well, first into the pits comes Marcus Römer.
That's the first scheduled stop we've seen.
Righto, so that's going to be the marker then for the rest of the field. We can expect drivers to start coming in anytime in the next 2 or 3 laps as this battle continues between Stadler and Stanley. What will Thomas Hinz do here? Elected to stay out of the pits for the time being. I mean, he's so far ahead of everyone else now that he doesn't really have to worry about fuel. He's 16 seconds ahead of Thomas O'Leary now, and has just lapped Dean Moll. So I think Hinsey at the moment, just running his own race, this is effectively an extended qualifying session for him.
It's the battle for P1, P2 again, and they've got traffic once again behind, but I believe that is Clark Archer behind, who's just happy and content letting these guys battle it out. He'll get by on the exit of Forest Elbow, which I like seeing. I like seeing the GT3 guys go, you know what, I've got nothing to gain by going past you guys. I'm just going to watch you two fight it out, and then I'll go past when it's safe. So, thumbs up there to Clark Archer. Didn't force anything, but actually backed off and gave Dance a little bit of room, so then Dance knew that there wasn't going to be any silly moves happen. I like that.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, and that's how I like to do my multi-class racing as well. I typically race prototypes when I do decide to get behind the wheel, and you know it's very important. I think as Archer goes for the pit lane, I think it's very important to just make sure that the slower class is confident that you're not going to make a silly move behind them, especially around a track like Bathurst where it's so hard to pass up at the top of the mountain and coming down to Forest Elbow. You want to wait for Conrod Straight because then you can complete the pass with minimal fuss and you'll cost each other less time overall.
The other part to that too is if you back off and give them a little bit more room, they're not going to worry about focusing on their mirror behind and worrying about what you're going to do as well. So they can focus on the guy ahead. Less likely for them to make a mistake that could potentially take you out from being that car behind anyway. So tip for anyone out there that doesn't race a huge amount of multi-class racing, if you're not going to be able to get a move done in a spot for a little while, don't even force it. Just back off. Let the guys around you know that you're not going to do anything. And then you can make the move when it's safe. So we may see... Oh, Dance just moves aside there and it's going to let car of Isaac Snyder go through. As I just have a look at that again. Thomas Hinz... No, actually, Dance didn't let Snyder through. Thomas Hinz fastest lap again. He's almost into the 202s.
Yeah, right. Hinzy's just not backing off here. Once you're in the lead, you can really get a rhythm on. But this battling GT3 pair of Barber and Snyder right in the midst of our GT4 lead battle, they're both going to be staying behind these guys. And this is multi-class in action as Snyder comes up onto the back of Cameron Dance. You'll see that he's not going to go for a huge move at Forest Elbow. He's just too far back to make it first up. Yeah, and taking an opportunity to save a little bit of fuel too.
Well, you saw that Barber wasn't going to do anything to make a move on Daniel Stevens. Number one, they're in the same livery, so they're teammates. So that then meant that Snyder didn't have to make a move on Dance because he wasn't going to lose anything by not making the move, essentially. If Barber had got through on Stevens, I think we would have seen Snyder be a lot more aggressive coming down the mountain. But because he had nothing to gain, really, other than... being closer to Barber, but even then he wouldn't have been that close. He didn't really need to make a move and didn't. So we got Aaron Stanley in, Scott Newton in, and I believe we're just seeing Isaac Snyder coming in right now.
Yeah, Barber as well coming in.
Yep.
Snyder gaining a bit there on pit entry now, bumper to bumper with Barber as... Oh no, that's
our
Thomas
second place
O'Leary.
That was second place, he was. So Harold Stadler's got through. And that was at the top of the mountain. Has he done this all on his own? Was there another car involved? What has happened here?
Let's have a look then. McPhillamy, of course, one of the big places on the track where big mistakes can be made. And it looks like just a bit too much curb. And goodness me, actually did get the wall. So that's some front end damage there for O'Leary. And I think the front suspension would have been affected by that as well. But man, I think he's managed to get away with quite a bit there.
Very, very lucky you didn't actually put it in the fence or over the fence. We've seen accidents like that where cars actually will propel with that much force. They'll go over the fence and down the mountain to the pits magically like that. So Hinge comes into the pits. He'll have a chance to have a drink, which he is doing so. Refreshing himself, hydrating himself. Actually dehydrating himself with one of those drinks. But, no surprise that O'Leary's come in. No surprise that Stadler's come in. But what's going to happen between Stadler and Aaron Stanley? Stanley, 45-second pit stop. Let's see what the difference is here now.
Indeed. So then, everyone at a stop in the pits, and Stadler and O'Leary together in sequential pit boxes and just monitoring how things are going for our GT3 runners. Jeff Schmeier has managed to get away with a 40.4 second stop. Thomas Hinz is away as well, and that is a 40.3 second stop for him. Nice and quick, managing to make his way back out on track. Aaron Stanley, meanwhile, is coming up to the final corner as O'Leary and Stadler still at a standstill in the pits. Let's see how much this gains here. Stadler, 2-pit exit, and it looks to me like both of them managing to get out ahead.
That's surprising. I would have thought that Stanley being behind O'Leary for so much, behind Stadler for so much, he would have saved more fuel, but obviously he had to pit 1 lap earlier, which means that he's then got to put more fuel in the car. O'Leary and Stadler then can put less fuel in the car. The person that's put the least amount of fuel in the car, though, is Scott Newton. So, be interesting to see how he goes. Clark Archer also a very, very short pit stop too. So we'll see what happens there as Daniel Stevens. Just thought I saw that he was dropping off the timing sheet a little bit. No, Scott Stevens just actually passed him for position on track as they've got a first proper GT4 pit stop, that being Lyndon Swaby. No surprise considering he was probably driving around at maximum pace to try and catch up to Dane Burns earlier.
Yes, indeed, and Burns staying out on this particular occasion himself.
That sunlight is cool.
Yeah, certainly is. Probably not so cool for the drivers as they come down to Skyline. Actually, can we get an onboard of Daniel Stevens coming up the top of the mountain? I want to see here what the sunlight is like from inside the cockpit as he comes up to this area of the track,
Right
going through the left-hander, and well, yeah, not too bad actually. I think the sun is high enough in the sky now that it's not actually going to get into drivers' windscreens as they come down the mountain.
Yeah, so it's probably what you'd consider to be perfect racing conditions now, because the sunlight is not going to affect the drivers like it was earlier. I must say that conditions are pretty ideal for the drivers out there. Very cool track conditions. Track is starting to warm up a little bit, but still not anywhere near the extreme levels we would expect.
Yes, indeed. Track looking very quick here at this stage. Philip Morton and Scott Newton, though, we take a look at the moment. Morton managing to keep himself in contention for that top 5. And he's made up 5 positions so far in this race. That was a bit of a wriggle there for Scott Newton coming down into Murray's corner.
As I just try and have a chat there with my mic muted, Grace. That was always good. You heard what I had to say, but no one else did.
Yes, indeed. Unfortunately, but
it wasn't anything that exciting. I was just saying that Stevens and Danson continued on.
Yes, indeed. We can expect them out for, I think, a couple of extra laps at this stage.
Yep.
I saw Eric Antilli making his way out of the pits as well. He is 11 laps down on our overall lead and 9 laps down on our GT4 leaders. So I think that was a bit more of a routine pit stop there for Eric Antilli. At the moment, he's just looking to circulate and get classified at the end.
Yeah, he's just out there now trying to make sure he gets points, because every point will count come the end of the season. Dance versus Stevens continues on. There's no other real battles in GT4. This is getting spicy. This is getting real intense.
certainly, especially considering they got Matt Andrews coming up behind them there. But down the hill, Dance much more aggressive on the brakes initially, and you see him gaining ever so slightly on Stevens as they come down into the dipper, but Stevens gets a little bit back there in the acceleration zone, and I think here Andrews going to have to wait again behind our GT4 leaders and make the pass nice and easy on Conrod Straight. You see just how close they get to the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow. That's one of the interesting points of the track, because you know you can take Forest Elbow at quite a rate of speed there on the exit. You can smash the throttle, but you really got to be careful of that wall. It juts out at just the right point to snatch the rear end of your car and send you flying into the trees. As that is a problem.
That's Scott Newton.
That's Scott Newton indeed. And oh no, spun it again. Coming into pit lane.
That previous lap, we saw him with that bizarre wheelwork at that exact corner. Why has he ended up in the pits? I don't understand how he's ended up in the pits. He's actually brought it back into pit lane, so I think he may have had a bit of damage. Yeah, he did have a bit of damage. Oh. Wow. I can honestly say I haven't seen that before.
Yeah,
not like
I've never
that.
seen that.
Not where I've seen cars go straight ahead into that wall, but I've never seen them go sideways. As I just see on my other screen, that second crash was even weirder. Just seen on my second screen, the zoom feed, that you can see when we come back, there is a car in the background there, a Liquid Molly car. Up on the jacks, that is Daniel Stevens for MFR in the pits. So I am guessing that Cameron Dance will be in this time by. If Dance can get 2 extra laps here, he's going to walk away with it. If he only gets the 1, it is still race on.
Indeed, so we'll keep an eye on him as he comes up to the end of this one. See if he decides to go for the pit stop this time round. He's got Clark Archer up behind him once again. Archer having taken his pit stop a few laps ago, but he's going to have to back off here across the top of the mountain. And Dance just trying to maximize the pace, try and get as much of an advantage as he can over Daniel Stevens and Archer. Well, you see hints of him making a move there, but there's no way that you'll be able to get past at that point of the circuit. Stevens then out of the pits, and in terms of pit stop time, that is 49 seconds. That is the second slowest pit stop in all of the GT4 field. The only one with a slower pit stop is Wayne Hutchison, 50.4 seconds.
I can confirm that, we've got the angle that we've got that Daniel Stevens gives us, which I absolutely love, because you can see the aggression on his face, you can see the looks on his face, but you can see how hard he's working the wheel as well. You can actually see the pit stop countdown timer come up on his screen. He had a tiny little bit of optional repairs to do as well, which he actually took. So he's not back out there in a spare car, so still has that available if he needs it. But here we go, Dance is going to go another lap. So he saved 2 laps of fuel. Wow.
All right. Good stuff there for Cameron Dance as Travis Walling decides to go for his stop from second place on track. We'll monitor how quick this stop is. Dwayne Burns comes on in as well. Remember, Burns was involved in a battle with Lyndon Swaby, who already took his pit stop, I think, 3 or 4 laps ago. So look out for that battle to continue when Burns makes his way out of the pits. Stevens, meanwhile, on the way out of Forest Elbow and already back on pace. And I think very smart to just take those optional repairs. Yes, it's cost him a bit of maybe a few seconds there in the pits, but at the very least, he'll have the freshest car possible.
Yep. Rather than using that spare car, because the time that you actually... Oh, jeez, look at the way it's bounced. I can't believe how much bounce they're getting through there.
It's terrifying.
It's scary. I'm glad I'm not driving. That's something that I would not be handling too well. But I've lost my train of thought now. That really threw me, seeing that car bounce.
Yeah.
You take over, Reese. I've lost my train of thought.
All right. Well, I'm going to try and find a train of thought as Travis Walling has completed his pit stop, makes his way out, and wow, this is pretty close here. Yeah, very tight. Daniel Stevens, he's got the momentum coming through turn 1, but he's going to have to try and make the move here at turn 2. And I saw a little bit of smoke up in front of Cameron Dance, but doesn't look like much of an issue there for him. Daniel Stevens, though, makes the move up the inside into turn 2. But I think Walling, with a 44-second stop, that's 5 seconds quicker than Daniel Stevens' stop. And remember, we got Simon Mazzomo ahead in terms of track position of these guys, but Mazzomo, of course, with that crash beforehand, he had to get repairs for that. That was Eric and Tilly having another off in the chase. But in comes Cameron Dance into the pit lane. Let's see how quick this pit stop is and if he would have gained some form of advantage over Daniel Stevens. Very aggressive entry. Got to slow down in time for those yellow cones.
Yeah, and you see as well that he's made sure that he's got everything set back up. As soon as he got into the pits, he made sure that he unticked the use of his spare car. He's just quickly making sure that he's got everything right in regards to pit stops. Pretty cool seeing when drivers actually are doing everything like that to make sure. Oh, Wally.
Oh.
Well, the reason I had the heart attack there because I wanted to see where he was in relation to the battle that's coming past. That's second and third that he's trying to work around, and he almost ended his race and theirs.
Yeah,
that's second,
Harold
third, and
Stadler.
fourth together.
Yeah, all of these guys together. Stadler, O'Leary, and Stanley in GT3, and Daniel Stevens has to go wide there in the chase to let O'Leary go. And this battle shows no signs of slowing down. Both of these drivers are at their max aggression levels at the moment. Cameron Dance has completed his fuel stop, and he's on his way, rolling in the pit lane. He is going to come out a fair way ahead here of Daniel Stevens.
It's going to be no real contest there, isn't it? As we said, that's just the fuel saving that he was able to do in that early phase of the race. It's going to be, about 7 or 8 seconds between them, so he's made a big chunk. Travis Walling, I think, has been the biggest winner out of the pit stop phase, though, because he's now right with Daniel Stevens, and he could apply enough pressure to get P2. One thing I was confused about was whether, or trying to wonder, was whether Daniel Stevens would try and not fully fill up the car, purely for the fact that he may then be able to tuck in behind Cameron Dance and save that fuel and give him maybe 3 laps at the end to try and push and force a mistake and get a move done. But obviously the car could have been not in the condition to be able to do that, or whether he had damage and, that was more important than worrying about the fuel numbers, or he just decided to fill it up and not stress about it, just go as hard as he can. Because the other factor is too, Dance may have just done that same thing too. He thought maybe I might sell myself 3 or 4 litres short and try and save that. So you never know what these guys are up to. They're always thinking 17 steps ahead and trying to reverse engineer the race in all different ways. And everyone has different philosophies on how to do it.
Yeah, that's some of the magic of racing like this, and it'll all coalesce into a final battle at the end, I'm sure. And these 3 closer than they've ever been. A good exit there for Harold Stadler, and they make their way past our GT4 leader, Cameron Dance. Simon Mazzomo, of course, showing up there in second. He's still going to have to come in for a bit of extra fuel at the very end, and this is going to be awkward here at the chase. That is Wayne Hutchison.
Yeah, did a good job to get out of the way there. I was worried that he might have put his foot on the brake a little bit too early and caused an incident there with Stadler, but Stadler was well awake to it, made sure that he turned in a little bit early. But what it's done, it's brought the 3 cars even closer. Stadler was a little bit slower on approach into the chase, just to make sure that he didn't make contact. We've actually got another battle going on in this class as well, as Nowak looking to make a move on Matt Andrews. And Matt Andrews, he's going to lose the spot here. Andrews has now dropped back to 7, Josh Nowak back up to 6, so this is a good recovery from Nowak from where he was not that long ago. Both Nowak and Andrews as well have to come in and make their second stop, because remember, they were out of the race early due to an incident. I nearly said injuries. Due to an incident earlier on. Of course, we saw Nowak tow back to the pits. Matt Andrews as well was involved in that huge incident at the exit of Murray's Corner. Now, in regards to Mazzomo as well, as you said, we're seeing him out of sequence. He's probably going to pit in around about 7 or 8 laps time.
Yes, indeed, and I reckon another replay opportunity has come up here, Jay, because Aaron Stanley has made his way past Thomas O'Leary at the Griffin's Bend, and there was actually slight contact between the two of them, which almost sent O'Leary crashing into the tyre barriers. He did glance off them, but you see Aaron Stanley going for the move here. The contact is made, and then, oh man, I think Thomas O'Leary got very lucky here because, look, he just grazes the tyre bundle. But that is a position loss there for O'Leary. And I guess fortunately for Fitzstye, it means that their two team cars now ahead of the kinetic machine, and they can work out the rest of the race from there.
Yes, and they won't fight either, so they'll just work together as much as they can. Dance to Stevens is around about 8 and a bit seconds, so that's a pretty big advantage. But this is the real battle now. Matt Andrews trying to come back on Josh Nowak. We know that they're very, very similar in regards to strategy. What have you seen?
Oh, a big incident. Stanley and O'Leary have come together again at the chase, and that was Aaron Stanley overshooting the chase, getting some oversteer, and just absolutely got cleaned up by O'Leary. We'll check that out on the VRS replay. So they had a bit of GT4 traffic ahead of them in the form of Jonathan Bain, and Ben ran wide to let Harold Stadler through, but you'll see from Aaron Stanley's perspective here, he pushes his way in, understeers off the course, gets oversteer on, and then bam, gets full-on T-boned by Thomas O'Leary.
That was huge.
Yeah, that's completely killed the battle for second in GT3.
And it looks like it could have killed Aaron Stanley's car too, because he actually had to bring it into the pits. Has he used his spare car? Hopefully for his sake he hasn't. Josh Nowak's decided now is the time to come back in, so he's done 28 laps on this stint, which seems to be around about what most guys are doing. Some have got it out to 30 in GT3. 31 laps is the most that we've seen in GT. Sorry, 32 laps is the most we've seen in GT4. No surprise who that was, Cameron Dance.
Yes, indeed. Dance seems pretty comfortable there out in the lead at the moment. All on his lonesome. He doesn't have to worry about other cars in his class around him. It's just him alone on track, just him and the circuit. So I think, when you're in a position like this, that's exactly what you want. You can get the maximum out of your machine. Isaac Snyder, meanwhile, at a standstill in the pits, waiting for the fuel to get brought in.
He's waiting for repairs. He's been sitting there for 8 minutes.
God, big repairs needed for Isaac Snyder's car.
He'll be wondering why he woke up at bizarre o'clock to do this race when he's had a situation like this. I know that for me, when I used to race once upon a time, when you get up at bizarre o'clock to go and do a race and nothing would ever go right for you, and you're like, why did I even bother getting out of bed? He'll be running through those emotions right now, but hopefully he gets back out there, still get some points. He's currently 16th in class, and he's ahead of 4 other cars. So if he can get back out there and get half race distance, that will help him in regards to points, things like that. He's currently done 34 laps. He's 5 laps down. He should actually be at 50% race distance minimum. So I believe from memory that 50% is the minimum. So hopefully for him, I'm right, and he'll get some points. But otherwise, it looks like he's happy just sitting there, and he'll get back out on track. So at some point, if he's got an engine change, he's only another 15-20 minutes away from that getting put back in.
Yeah, does take quite a while for that kind of repair to be done. Matt Andrews making his way through on Stevens and Walling, who are continuing to keep each other honest here. Stevens, of course, gaining a little bit on Walling because you saw he had to go a bit narrow out of the chase to let Andrews go. But Mazzomo here, just up ahead of them.
He just did his fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, 2-minute 14-second lap time for Simon Mazzomo. So obviously, with having to take that spare car with his crash earlier, it's completely refreshed that machine. And Cameron Dance out of the cutting out in front.
That lap from Mazzomo, the second fastest lap in that class for the entire race. The fastest lap was done by Cameron Dance, and that was a 2:14.4, so only a tenth faster than that lap that Mazzomo just did. So Simon Mazzomo going quite quick at the moment.
Indeed, but he will be running overall a bit of a lower fuel level
Yeah.
at this point, having already taken some fuel at the stop where he got those repairs done. So look out for him to come into the pits sometime in the next 10, 20 minutes. Bit of a splash and dash just to make sure that he can make it to the end. And I would expect, considering how far back drivers like Lyndon Swaby and Alexander Sheridan are, I reckon Mazomo will probably come back out in about maybe 5th or 6th place in class.
I think between Swaby and Sheridan's about where he's going to slot in, because you won't need to take a full tank of fuel. Won't take tyres, so he'll probably only need half a tank of fuel, top up as much as he needs to, and go from there. Amazing to think that we're already 2/3 of the way through this race. We're into the final third of the race, almost into the final half hour. It has honestly gone by very, very quick, this race.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a good stream of events happening around the circuit.
Not all good, sadly.
Yeah, of course, but enough to keep things interesting in the middle of this event. And I think that's something that happens quite a bit at Bathurst in general, because it's a complicated circuit. It's difficult to get even one lap done around here, let alone the 36 laps that our GT4 leaders have already done. So there's an awful lot to talk about, and there's always going to be some kind of mistake being made, some sort of compromise that has to be made around this place. The track temp staying the same, though. Still 23 degrees.
I've just muted my mic again and forgot to unmute it. The track temp has gone from around 22.8, it's now up to 23.3, 23.4. So it is slowly increasing. It's probably not going to be enough at this rate to cause too much of an impact. As I just saw there, Josh Nowak has come into the pits and come back out. He's had put about 5 seconds worth of something into the car. That was his third pit stop. So, no, that was his final scheduled stop. So, yeah, okay. As he just gets his way by the car, I believe that's Alexander Sheridan.
Indeed.
Nowak was going all right on the recovery drive, up into P7, P6, and now he's back into P11 and 1 lap down, of course, having to do those extra pit stops due to an incident on lap number 10.
Yeah, the next car up for position for Josh Nowak is Marcus Römer, who sits in final position in the top 10, and 9.6 seconds is very difficult to make up in a multi-class races. Oh, that's a Ferrari off. Who's that? That is Clark Archer, who has had quite the cross up there coming through the chase. I think that's once again an issue with the curb down there at the chase. Let's see what happened to him. Did he run a bit deep?
He ran
Oh,
wide.
no. Caught the grass on entry.
I think he had a little bit more speed coming in there, because you see that just in the back of the shot as he was spinning off there was the 2 GT4s that we've been watching for a long, long while, that being Daniel Stevens and Travis Walling, who actually closed up quite a lot. I think that because he got past those guys, he had a little bit of extra momentum, and he may have even outbroke himself, which forced him onto the grass there, because, I mean, it doesn't take much to gain maybe 1 or 2 kilometres. 1 or 2 kilometres an hour could be 20 metres difference in regards to braking position coming into that corner, because it is a very, very huge braking zone. So that could have been what it was. But yeah, minor mistake, and we're at the point now too, final quarter or so of the race. The brain starts to wander a little bit. Concentration starts to lapse. Mistakes are going to happen in the next little bit. That's why I love these races, is they're the right length that the mind starts to play tricks on these drivers, and bizarre errors happen and strange things happen in these last quarter of these races. Doesn't matter what one that we do in the major series, the last quarter of these races always does something weird.
Yeah, there's always a surprise to be thrown up. This battle continuing for third on track at the moment in GT4, with Walling taking a... Oh no, Clark Archer's had some further issues there.
Another one.
And that's across the top of the mountain. Was this at McPhillamy? Yeah, taking a bit too much curb there. But it doesn't look like it's actually hurt him on that occasion. It's coming down into the S's. Yeah, just missed the turn-in point. And my goodness, that is a huge smash. Wow, you can imagine the G-forces involved in something like that, and he's wasted no time escaping back to pit lane there.
What I think's happened here, Reese, is because he's run a little bit wide there, it sort of unsettled the car at the point of turn-in, and when he's gone to turn it in, he's already been wider than he normally would be, and by then he's well and truly missed that turn-in point. So, two unfortunate events back-to-back there for him, and he's had to bring it in the pits. Hopefully, for his sake, he's still got that spare car, can get back out there, but that was a big incident. We're just hearing as well that 75% race distance to be classified. So that's why we're seeing Isaac Snyder just sitting there waiting, because he needs to get back out there and maybe do another 7 or 8 laps.
Well, that's all he will need, but the battle between Walling and Stevens heating up here. Stevens goes defensive, but Walling has the draft and the racing line coming into turn 2. Stevens is going to use the camber to his advantage. Walling stuck on the outside there, and the crown in the road showing its worth there, keeping Walling behind Daniel Stevens. But I feel like Walling reckons he has a proper shot here. Oh, at second place towards the end. My
Good news
goodness.
in the corner. Good news in the corner. Right in here.
Yeah.
Back out.
Isaac Snyder back out on track and already scything his way through GT4 traffic. So fortunately, he will get a classified points finish out of that one. But
Hopefully.
Daniel Stevens, yeah, hopefully, starting to feel the pressure from Travis Walling, I think, is Daniel Stevens, because I just saw in the cutting, he pushed very hard and almost hit the wall on the outside coming into it.
Yep, he's definitely got a lot of pressure coming on from behind now, so he'll be working very hard to try and maintain that composure. He's feeling a lot more pressure now than when he had Cameron Dance behind him, because he knew what Dance was doing. He knew Dance was just sitting there, wasn't going to make a move. Car behind now is not only going to make a move, he's going to force a move. So this is going to be very intensive for Daniel Stevens. And you know, see, he's not just looking down the road in front, he's checking that mirror a lot right now.
Indeed he is, and have a look at the draft coming into play. Walling creeping up and getting larger and larger in the mirrors. My goodness, it's an angry looking little car. It's the BMW M4. Certainly wouldn't want to see that in my mirrors as a mistake from Daniel Stevens. Walling has to back out of that.
Good job to back out of it, because that could have taken both of them out of the race. But yeah, Daniel Stevens starting to show a little bit of a kink in the armour as we hit 30 minutes to go. Oh, a little mistake there from Walling. Just hit the grass on the entry into Murray's corner. Got a little bit sideways. Good control to maintain the car. He'll push on. But yeah, these guys are going at 111% now. 110 is not enough to explain what they're doing now. They are fighting hard to get these positions or hold the positions at the moment.
Indeed they are. And remember, they are fighting for effective second place in GT4. It looks like Cameron Dance has dropped them for the most part. He is way ahead, just coming into the cutting now as they're coming through Griffin's Bend. And you see that Simon Mazzomo is not that far behind Dance either. Mazzomo is still running pretty competitive lap times at the moment. He did another 2:14.
Yeah, he's absolutely flying. By far the fastest car out there at the moment. And purple first sector as well for GT4 as well on this lap. So this is probably his last lap, maybe one more on this fuel run. So this is a chance for him to break the fastest lap of the race. And he'll probably want that too, just for a little bit of bragging rights against his very good friend and teammate Cameron Dance.
Absolutely. Well, Stevens and Walling, I mean, they're absolutely locked at the moment to each other. And this is probably going to play into the fatigue that we were talking about before. Stevens constantly having to look in his mirrors and defend. Walling keep continuing to try and attack. You see how close they run to the wall on the exit of Forest Elbow. It's really going to take a lot out of these two drivers as we see that Scott Stevens back into the pits. He's already taken a spare car. Clark Archer as well back in the pits.
He got back out on track and has come straight back into the pits. So Interesting there for Archer. See if Mazomo goes one more lap. No, that's it for him. So, are you thinking similar to me? Just come out in between Swaby and Sheridan for Mazomo? Somewhere around there?
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Let's see if we're right. We might actually be right on something for a change.
Yeah.
Usually when we guess something, it's nowhere near close, but I think we both might be onto something here.
Well, here's hoping then. So Daniel Stevens is going to move up into second. Travis Walling up into third. And Mazomo's pit stop continues. He's already fallen back there to fourth place, now fifth as Dwayne Burns makes his way past. Lyndon Swaby as well, making his way past Mazomo down into sixth. And Alexander Sheridan, not that far behind. Yeah.
He might drop behind Sheridan here because he's still stopped, still taking on fuel. So he's,
he's away.
Yep, away now. And he's going to drop him behind Sheridan ahead of Corbin. But that'll be a pretty intense battle based on the pace difference that they've had. Mazomo might be able to catch up to Alexander Sheridan here. But I tell you what, this is on here between Walling and Stevens. Walling's got the pace to get through. I've got no doubt about that. But between traffic and actually finding the right spot on the track to do it, and making sure he's got the momentum to be able to get it done, that's another story.
Oh, no, there we go. Daniel Stevens taken out in spectacular fashion by Marcus Roma. I think that was probably an ill-advised move there, coming up across the top of the mountain. Stevens obviously assumed that Roma would try to stay behind, but very unhappy Daniel Stevens there. Fortunately, he still has his spare car available to him, but that is any hope of a podium completely gone for the Kiwi.
And that was a horrible, horrible, horrible time to try and make that move. There was nothing for Pike Archer to gain. He's already 3 laps down. Nowhere to fight for
It was
position.
Roma.
Oh, it was Roma. Sorry, my mistake then. Roma did have a little bit to fight for, but yeah, even still. Oh.
That's huge damage there. Warping through the wall almost, and the suspension is completely screwed on that thing now. What a shame.
I must say that every single race that we've shown in this series recently, Daniel Stevens has absolute horrendous, horrible luck. He just doesn't seem to get anything go his way. Everything that could go wrong does go wrong. I must say, I'm just watching the wheel work for him trying to bring it back to the pits. He is struggling big time. Look at the damage to that car.
Yeah, that thing can barely go in a straight line. He's really struggling to keep that thing going. You see how much, from the exterior view of the car, how much he's struggling
100.
too.
He's only doing 100 k's an hour and he's struggling. He's going to... hold on to it, mate. Hold on to it.
Oh, careful. Is that Swaby going through on him there? I think it's Scott Corbin in the other kinetic car. But not electing to cut through the gravel trap for the chase that time around, but he's going to try his best to stay wide here, let the GT3 car go. Oh, no, that was another GT4 there, the BMW. But Daniel Stevens making his displeasure known, I think.
I think it's pretty obvious as to why there is a fair bit of displeasure, and I think he's well and truly valid to be very, very unhappy with how that's played out as well.
Yeah, well, he's made it back to the pits at the very least. He'll be able to get back out there, take his spare car, and race to the end, but he won't be getting anywhere near as many championship points as he was hoping to get.
Yeah, very, very disappointing for him in that aspect. Lyndon Swaby has closed up a fair amount recently to Dane Burns. I just noticed too, Thomas O'Leary is still stopped. Oh, look at that. Just like Magic Stevie's back out again.
Yes, and with a completely fresh machine as well. But yeah, that's curious that O'Leary has spent as much time in the pits as he has. Maybe he's elected to retire, perhaps.
Well, yeah, maybe he's already used that spare car.
Perhaps.
Noack, Marcus Roma here. Side by side, and Noack through. And that's Hinz just ahead, so Hinzy putting a lap on these guys. There's now only 7 cars left on the lead lap. Daniel Stevens still shaking his head on my other screen here. I can look over and just see the anger in his face. I think we might see a new fastest lap of the race coming up here.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see there as Noack continues to try and hold off Marcus Roma, who has frankly gotten away with quite a bit there. in that incident with
Oh,
Daniel
for sure.
Stevens. Barely any damage at all to that Ferrari. It was the GT4 Porsche that really got the short end of the stick in that incident. Well, they come up on GT4 leader Cameron Dance now, coming out of Griffin's Bend. So Noack and then Roma had to back off there. Slight technical issues for Cameron Dance, and Roma's going to lose about a second or so here to Noack. Dance moves aside to let Roma go, and the battle will continue.
Did I just hear Noack scrape the wall there in the run up to the tree? I definitely heard someone hit the wall.
Yeah, I don't think it was Noack, because he just avoided getting out of the wall there.
Be one of those phantom wall hits, which we do know do happen.
Yeah, with how close you run to the walls here, it can sometimes be misleading as a broadcaster to
Makes their ears prick up and then go, oh, hang on, they were pricking them up for nothing.
Yeah, of course. But Noack now with a bit of an extra gap to play with versus Marcus Roma. He can afford to back off ever so slightly. So it looks like things have calmed down once again. Thomas Hins, who we haven't given much airtime to, one of the most dominant drives I've seen in a Majors Series event. And the typical concentration face there on Hinsey. He's now pulling the gap out to over 30 seconds on Harold Stadler. He's just been flawless in this race.
And he's still doing sub 204 lap times as well at this point in the race too. I just noticed too, Aaron Stanley's brought the car in, but has not driven the car into the pit. So something's happened out on track to Aaron Stanley. Stanley was in 3rd or 4th position, was he not?
He was, and looks like there's some fairly heavy damage to that BMW. The bonnet is missing and the front bumper is caved in. It happened at the exit of Griffin's Bend. Looks like he... that is very odd. Coming into the cutting, actually, is where it happened. I think that was a hardware failure for Aaron Stanley, because he just went straight on. He went for the turn-in, and then the car just kept going straight.
Almost took out our poor cameraman then.
Well, watch the wheel work here, and you'll see him go for the turn. Let's see here. Turn to the left, and then...
The wheel just didn't turn, did it? Just turned to the left and then didn't turn after that. And even then, he's not... You know, when you have a crash like that, normally what you do, you sort of wiggle the wheel around, but he didn't wiggle the wheel at all, so that was very unusual.
Well, that's a retirement there for Aaron Stanley.
Yeah,
he's just disconnected from the server.
Yep. So he's not going to go any further. Wow. Yeah, VR failure. There we go. Just hearing. That makes a bit more sense.
Indeed, it does.
Remember when we said that Mazomo coming out of the pits just behind Alexander Sheridan, and we said that this could be a bit of an intense little battle?
Yes,
it's turning into a nice little battle here. Lovely
stuff. Let's see if Mazomo can make his way past Sheridan here, because obviously he'll be on average lighter fuel load than everyone else in the GT4 class. He'll have a bit of that extra pace, and I mean Mazomo was showing how quick he was in the middle stages of the race. I think he's going to have a little bit of trouble getting by Sheridan, because you know, he's a very tough battler, but Mazomo certainly has the pace to get it done.
Definitely
does. In fact, 1.2 seconds faster than Sheridan on the last lap.
And remember too, Mazomo set the second fastest lap of the entire race in that class, so pace is not something Mazomo has to worry about at the moment. So I actually feel for Mazomo seeing those numbers now. What would have happened if that incident had not have occurred? Would he have been able to actually challenge and potentially take it away from Cameron Dance?
Yeah, I certainly think there was a possibility in the air of that happening. But unfortunately, it hasn't worked out that way, and this is where he is. It's how he's got to deal with it now. Sheridan down into the chase. Mazomo having a very brief look in the braking zone. Just move around in your rival's mirrors slightly. Try to unsettle them, and Sheridan ran a bit wide in the chase as well. That's going to give Mazomo the run down to Murray's corner. To the inside then goes the Fitstyle Motorsport car, and outbraking Alexander Sheridan into the final corner. That is move complete there for Simon Mazzomo. And now his focus is going to be on trying to draw out as much of a gap as he can.
What's he got to catch up to Swaby? What's that about? Too much. Too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not going to get 20 seconds in 20 minutes.
Basically the length of Mountain Straight.
Yeah.
Mazzomo entered Mountain Straight as Swaby was exiting it. So not going to be much of a change there, but Swaby, incidentally, right on the back now of Dwayne Burns and running side by side. Burns having to run a little bit tighter there, but Swaby off the racing line, going to lose a bit more out of that as well.
Yeah, so one spot that you don't really want to force yourself offline there because it ruins the momentum that you get the whole way through one of the most fastest technical parts of the track. So we've got lots of fast parts. The track don't hit too much curve. Oh, you had to get on the brake there to settle the car. Almost ended up in the wall. But that, yeah, through there under the tree. Called the tree because there used to be a big, huge tree that the drivers used to aim at. It's not there anymore. Hasn't been there since the mid-90s, but it's still called the tree to a lot of older racing fans in Australia. Did a grumble in the background about being old. But through that section there, if you run too wide, it then compromises your run there. From there, through Metal Grate up to McPhillamy, in GT cars and the like, you're doing 215 k's an hour. If you enter that section down 5, 6, 7, 8 k's, that can hurt you 15, 20, 25 k's by the time you get to the first part there at Metal Grate, which is probably the second, maybe the most committed corner in the entire track.
Yeah, I reckon the only place where you'd have more commitment would be either McPhillamy Park or the braking zone into the chase. That Metal Grate as the road dips, goes through that elevation change. You do have to push very hard through there. I mean, you lose a bit of front end grip as the track falls away on you. Yes, indeed.
The reason it's called Metal Grate is there's literally a metal grate which you just saw Clark Archer nearly drive over. So, that is why the corner. It's not actually called Metal Grate, but probably the last 15 years, 20 years, it's just sort of evolved, and that is now what that area has become called. It used to be Reed Park, Sulman Park. It was always named after the names of the camping grounds in those areas. But nobody uses Reed Park or Sulman Park unless you're actually talking about camping now. All you talk about is Metal Grate.
Exactly right. And Alexander Sheridan passing Wayne Hutchison there. Hutchison, of course, a lap down on these guys. He's just working through his own race right now, but you can see Mazzomo has really gotten the gap there over Sheridan.
He has. Just seeing too Gavin Barber and Marcus Roma battling away as they just got past Scott Stevens, who didn't really put up a fight at all, just let them through nice and easily. So Barber and Roma battling for position with, what have we got, 7.5 laps to go.
Indeed we have. This race has really flown by. We're in the final 15 minutes now, and Roma getting a slightly better exit there versus Gavin Barber, but going to have to stay behind because Daniel Stevens there meeting up with Marcus Roma again, and Roma going for the move at Griffin's Bend. Lovely move up the inside, and Barber having to stay wide there. Stevens just making his way past Stevens behind. Stevens and Stevens, goodness me.
Lucky we don't have someone with the first name Stephen.
Yeah.
I'd had to double check the entry list there to make sure we didn't.
I believe we do have Stephen Williams racing in the Sportsman split.
We do, yes. Of course, Sportsman split on at the same time right at the moment. The Sportsman, the drivers who haven't nominated for the Pro Championship. This is the first time that the two groups of drivers have split apart for this region. Of course, the European and the Americas region splits for every race, and they also are fully broadcasted as well. So the top drivers in Sportsman get their own broadcast as well. So pretty cool that we've got 5 broadcasts throughout the Majors series for 2021. 5 broadcasts each and every weekend.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see. This is a great series that requires an awful lot of organization behind the scenes to pull off, and I think we have to give major props to the Majors admin team, and major props to Lyndon Swaby for
How did he do that?
courage making that move work, and to
How did he do
Dwayne
that?
Burns for keeping it out of the wall.
That doesn't
Goodness.
happen. I mean,
No.
the one positive, I guess, is the GT4 cars, so they're a little bit smaller, but that's not a position that you make a move. Ever.
Yeah. Certainly not. So let's see how it was done then.
It was all set up at the exit of Griffin's Bend, so just great momentum from Swaby. Just a little bit slower on corner entry to make sure he propelled it through, and almost forced a minor mistake there from Burns based on that. I think Burns was probably watching the mirror a little bit too much, and then just up the inside, and have a look at that, just beautiful movement. And Burns gave enough room to make sure that he didn't fire off into the fence like we've seen other people do. Good driving from both there. That was a really, really good pass.
Yeah, excellent spatial awareness from both drivers. That's how you want to see a pass being done at the cutting, if you ever want to see one.
I don't
It's
ever
usually
like seeing them. It's usually
Yeah.
a car in the wall when you see an attempt, let alone an actual pass.
high pucker factor at that point of the circuit.
And talking about that corner of the circuit, it has taken literally every big name Australian New Zealand driver ever to race on this track. Think back last year in the Bathurst 1000, Jamie Whincup. Think back to the Volvo days when Scott McLaughlin was in the Volvo. That corner bit him as SVG went past him. It's bit every single driver back throughout all time in both the 12-hour, the GT racing for the 12-hour, and in the 1000 for the V8s. So this track bites, and that is probably the one spot that bites harder than others, other than the cutting. Other than the dipper and the S's. Those 2 points, you look at the track map, you think, oh, well, they'll be nice and easy because they're slow, squiggly bits, so people will be aware. It's the corners after the big, long, fast bits that are the trouble. The chase takes hardly anyone out in comparison to those other braking points. Well, there's other corners.
Yeah, we have seen some spectacular incidents at the chase in the past. I think back to Fabian Coulthard's incredible rollover at 300 kilometers an hour on the entry to the corner, and it's a testament to modern race car safety that he was able to get out of that crash with barely more than a couple of bruises, but largely that was due to just catching the grass on the entry. You don't often see drivers come together on the entry to the chase. They're well aware that it's quite a dangerous corner, and it's often better to go through single file. You only really see big moves happening at that corner late in a race. But Dwayne Burns here starting to fall off the back of Lyndon Swaby.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, it seems like Lyndon has the pace under his belt to really make this work and secure that podium position.
And one other little thing that I'm just looking through as well, we've got a couple of drivers that have ended up back in the pits. I'm just going to see if we can get a replay up of another incident race, so bear with me here.
I'm guessing one of the cars involved was Jonathan Bain.
Sure was, and that's a strange direction to be facing at that point of the track.
That certainly is. I'm
okay.
rewinding myself, and yeah, looks to me like just got unstable over the curb, glanced off the wall. That was very lucky there for the BMW of Travis Walling, of course, in second place, just barely avoiding that incident. But yeah, it looks like, unfortunately, Ben did that all on his own there. But it's an easy mistake to make because the curbs up at this point of the track, they are quite substantial.
Yep, just bounced it over the curb and through he went. And you can see how bad the damage is to the car based by the fact that Jonathan's got out of it.
Yep, no Ben in his sim rig. So that car's going to be in there for quite some time, and I don't even know if he's going to be able to bring it back out in time for the race finish.
Yeah,
but at the very least, he's completed...
I want to look at this. This is the angle I want to see.
Yeah. From Travis Walling. See how close this call was. There's Ben just up ahead. And Walling couldn't even see what was going on there. Oh, wow. Great incident avoidance.
How did he know that that was where the room was to go around? That's what I want to know. How did he know that that was the way to go? Well done for from Jonathan Ben to get the car off the circuit as quick as he could too, because like that car is destroyed, unfortunately for him. But to get the car off the track and out of harm's way, and then for Walling to get by without making contact with him and destroying his own race as well. Well done, everyone. I mean, it's not the result that Jonathan Ben would have wanted, but he'll be back next round. We've got no doubt about that. Matt Andrews and Dean Mole here. This is getting a bit spicy. And one thing I was going to say is, out of our 13 cars that we had entered, 12 took the start, and that is the first retirement in GT4. We've had quite a few more in GT3, but GT4, first retirement at this point of the race. That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, great run through as there goes
nice
Matt Andrews, and Dean Mole has already said in the text chat that he's going to be pitting in. So,
Okay.
no. The two of them come together, and Dwayne Burns has to get off the brakes there. I mean, Mole clearly said that he would be pitting in on the text chat, and Andrews would have seen that, but going for the move anyway. Mole tried his best to, I think, stay out of Andrews' hair, but the two of them just come together, and Dean Mole now has a bit more damage to deal with.
It was just a strange incident. It wasn't really unnecessary. I don't think... Yeah, Andrews just came over a little bit too quickly there, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he could have easily afforded to stay a bit more to the left.
Especially when he would have known that Mole was wanting to get to the other side of the circuit. It wasn't really that necessary, but... Andrews will have to continue on with a little bit of damage to that rear wing as well. You can see it's a little bit bent and broken, but he'll continue on. Dean Mole has come out just behind his teammate in Josh Nowak. So these two might have a fun little battle for the last 6.5 minutes. How have we only got 6.5 minutes? Let's feel like we've got another hour to go, the way that this race has played out.
Yeah, Josh Nowak lifts off there to let Dean Mole go. It's a position change for those two.
I think that's a strategic go by. Nowak, probably from what I've heard, isn't going to be participating in every round, but Dean Mole will be trying to get as many championship points as he can. So a little positional change between teammates, always very, very helpful in that sort of thing.
Scott Corbin and Shane Bowen, meanwhile, together on track. Another Avatar Auto Racing machine in battle with a kinetic Porsche. And
a little bit of history repeating.
Yes, indeed. And it looks to me at this stage that Corbin is the faster car right now. So wait and see what Shane Bowen can do. Bowen, of course, started all the way at the back of the GT4 field. So for him to make his way up as far as he has, testament to his endurance racing skill there. Able to keep himself in the fight for positions and avoid incidents where a lot of drivers have really fallen in the last half hour or so.
Yeah, exactly right. It's been a tough night for quite a few of these guys too, which is very, very sad to see. I must say that awesome to see quite a few guys that have stuck it out considering how bad a night they've had too.
Yeah, I agree. It shows the dedication of the drivers in this series. You know, there's always championship points on offer as long as you can complete 75% of the winner's race distance. So it's always worth it trying to keep your foot in there. But Bowen there majorly dropping off the back of Corbin through the S's. I think that position is safe there for the kinetic driver.
I think you're right. I think that's done. So no issues there. I'm just trying to set up a couple of something different in the background at the moment, Reece. So my apologies if I'm a little bit distracted.
No worries.
I'm trying to set up something nice because we might have something happen that we've never ever had happen before in SimSpeed broadcast. So I think we need to capture a moment. If we've got both winners on webcam at the same time, I think that's something we might need to capture.
Indeed, that would certainly be a first. But
because I hope I haven't put the commentator's curse on them.
Yeah, God, that would be quite the curse, wouldn't it? Fingers crossed, touch wood, etc., etc. Dean Mole and Josh Nowak continuing to... Oh, no. Oh, dear, that's Travis Walling, and that's down at the Dipper. That's a difficult spot. Oh dear, I don't need heart attacks. That's
Neither do
Lyndon
I.
Swaby and that's Lyndon Swaby getting by for second place. And Walling has fallen behind Dwayne Burns as well. So
No,
Walling now
Burns
off
is
the
a
podium.
full lap down. Burns is a full lap down. No.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He's ahead of
What's
Travis Walling now. But that's what happened to Travis. He
Oh, I
just
hit the inside wall.
hitting the inside wall there on the run up to the dipper. It's always difficult, and man, Lyndon Swaby had to really back out of it there to avoid getting into Walling.
Burns is behind, only just though, 2.5 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so he's only just gotten away with that as Travis Walling. He is still on the podium, but with a bit of damage, that's going to cost him some pace. So I still think Dwayne Burns could have a chance here at getting onto the podium with the way that gap is starting to close. It'll only be, I think, two laps now for our GT4 runners. Thomas
and
Hinz.
GT3 runners too.
Indeed. So look out for a change of position between Travis Walling and Dwayne Burns, but Cameron Dance is completely untroubled up at the front. Had a real shot at the overall International Division Championship. Were it not for...
Had Roboto Reese there for a second?
No, did we?
We did, that's right, you're back.
Okay, cool, no worries. I was just saying that Dance had a proper shot at the International Division Championship last year, but it was a very controversial end to the season in that season-ending IndyCar at Fontana.
It literally was the final moment of the race too, wasn't it? The final, 4 laps, incident on the 4th last lap to decide the championship. Like, that's very, very unheard of. I just noticed too that Isaac Schneider's reached what he hopes his 75% race distance, called it a night or a morning or a day or whatever it is. He's decided to quit. Probably fair enough when you saw how much damage that car had. So he's decided he's not going to move any further forward. In saying that, if he had done an extra lap, he would have gained an extra spot, but I don't think he's too stressed about that. But Hinz now will come up and get the white flag, and he looks very, very chilled at the moment. In fact, I'll show you how chilled these boys look at the moment. You'll have a look at this.
Cameron Dance on the right, Thomas Hinz on the left.
2 relaxed blokes right there.
Yeah, business as usual. And oh my goodness, there was a very hairy moment as there's a position change between Travis Walling and Dwayne Burns. They had 3 GT3 cars thread the needle between them. Scott Stevens right in the middle of all of that, moving ahead. Josh Nowak. And, well, Scott Stevens, of course, is 3 laps down. But Marcus Römer, right in the midst of all of that between Dean Moll and Josh Nowak, could have a chance here on the final lap. But I think that's the podium decided for GT4. Dwayne Burns now ahead of Travis Walling.
Yeah, and Travis Walling won't have enough now to get back through. Just the car looks too beaten and battered and bruised. He's had great pace, but every time he looks like he's starting to make inroads in some way, shape or form, whether it's been traffic or an incident himself, just hasn't had anything go his way. It'd be ruining what might have been. He was on for P2 after the unfortunate incident for Daniel Stevens, but to pick up a 4th in the end, as long as he can bring it home, probably a night to forget, unfortunately.
Well, a night to remember, on the other hand, for Thomas Hinz. He started on pole, and he has led just about every lap on this race here tonight, showing again that when the time is right, Hinzy is one of the toughest competitors in AusNZ sim racing to go up against. He's had that Ferrari sorted from the moment he jumped into the server tonight. Showed great pace in practice, showed great pace in qualifying, and has kept the car clean, crucially, throughout the race. There is not a single scratch on that thing. And Cameron Dance is going to...
is he going to slow up and let Hinzy come through?
Yeah, big question there, because he's going to have to do an extra lap otherwise.
I'm saying that if he does an extra lap, he'll technically have a full lap on the whole field. That is something that you do want. It looks like he's going to try and do that, so good luck to him for that. So Cam will have another run.
But Hinz, on the other hand, only 1 corner to go now for him. And you'll see the smiles start to creep on his face pretty soon. One more turn. There we go. Cheers, Hinsey. Across the line, takes a swig as he wins the international division of the majors, the Bathurst 2 hour.
He knew he was on camera then, didn't he?
Yeah, he knew. Excellent stuff there from Thomas Hins. A fine drive indeed.
Yeah, absolutely dominated from the start of, from the end of qualifying when he put that lap in to put it on pole. Never looked like being a challenge in that race. Fastest lap of the race. And not only fastest lap of the race, he was fastest by half a second. His fastest lap, 2:03.0. The next fastest driver was Harold Stadler, who did a 2:03.6. So just over half a second faster than every other car in the field. That's domination. Absolute domination.
Yeah, certainly is. I mean, I haven't seen that in the majors for quite some time.
One thing I want to say, Cameron Dance, if you actually look over his right shoulder, he has his phone up with the YouTube stream up. So he can hear us right now. So Cam, put your phone away and do some six skids.
Yeah, that's going to be some demerit points if he was driving in Australia.
Wait till he notices the point where we know that he's... There it is.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, Cam. All right, well, only a few more corners to go then for Mr. Dance. There we go. But I think this particular drive for Dance, again, it was because he stayed out of trouble, you know. Yeah. Unfortunate for Daniel Stevens, I think, you know, that the incident there with Marcus Roma was completely not Stevens' fault. And it was completely out of his control. But Cameron Dance has put himself in such a position where he's been able to take advantage of other people's misfortunes. And it all started once again with that pit stop and being able to pull it off. So across the line he goes. Winner, winner, chicken dinner for Cameron Dance in GT4. And that is a lap on the rest of the GT4 field as well, which would certainly be sweet.
He looks pretty happy, doesn't he?
Indeed he does. I think that was a burnout that he was doing across the line.
He was trying. Pretty lame one, but he did one, I guess.
Now the traction control on these things can ruin that occasionally. But in lap then for these two, our class winners, GT4 on the left, GT3 on the right. And those are your results. Only 3 cars on the lead lap at the end of it, with Hins taking the win by 42 seconds from Harold Stadler and Philip Morton completing the podium. It was still a profitable night there for TechSense Fitstein Motorsports. Matt Andrews and Dean Mole are going to round out the top 5, with Josh Nowak coming home in 6th, with Marcus Roma coming home in 7th. It was Gavin Barber, Scott Newton, and Jeff Schmeier rounding out the top 10. A good run there for Schmeier, considering how far down we saw him at the start.
Yep, then we got Barnes, Archer, and Stevens, the last of the finishers. Aaron Stanley, Isaac Snyder, Thomas O'Leary, Robert Northway, Andrew Waring, Phyllis Pateklis, and Justin Kirby all did not finish the race, unfortunately, for those guys. Bit of a hard luck story for some of them. Some of the others just not their night at all as we go to GT4.
Indeed, it was Cameron Dance who takes the win by a full lap over Lyndon Swaby and Dwayne Burns. Travis Walling was in contention for P2, but for that mistake coming down through the S's just a couple of laps from the end. Simon Mazzomo, meanwhile, recovers to 5th place, but it's another case of what might have been for him with that incident at the exit of the chase early on in the race. Alexander Sheridan and Shane Bowen 6th and 7th. It's a good run there for Avatar Auto Racing. 1 car on the podium and both of them in the top 10. Scott Corbin comes home in 8th. Daniel Stevens, the big heartbreak story of the night. Were it not for that move from Marcus Roma, we might have seen a good challenge there for podium positions from the MFR driver. Wayne Hutchison, meanwhile, coming down a couple laps down to finish off the top 10 in GT3, and by then we go into retirement territory because Jonathan Bain could not make it to the finish, and Eric and Tilly couldn't either, but I think they should still be classified, and that is going to be some kind of recompense, I suppose, with John Sorensen not taking the start.
Interesting too that Cameron Dance didn't end up with the fastest lap of the race. Mazzomo stole it on the last lap of the race as well. So the very last lap of the race, pipped Cameron Dance by 36 thousandths of a second.
Wow. That's incredible. So the final fastest lap in the GT4 class then was a 2-minute 14.414 from Simon Mazzomo. So that's going to bring to an end the race proceedings, but we've still got driver interviews to come up. We're going to go to our winners first. First up in the commentary box is GT3 winner Thomas Hinz. Hinzy, congratulations. You cheered us across the line and we cheers you back. That was a brilliant drive.
Thank you. Yeah, it was good fun. Yeah, I didn't think that would happen. I knew I'd be pretty pacey in GT3, but I didn't think it would be like that. Yeah, it was great fun. It's weird. I don't usually lead races because usually I qualify terribly. So yeah, it was a weird thing to lead a race for fun. So yeah, it was really just mostly keeping it clean. You know, try and get a gap early. You know, it looked like Andrew had some issues somewhere online. I think Aaron as well. A few of them had problems, which helped. Yeah, then it was just keeping it clean, picking through the GT4s, you know, quickly but safely. So yeah, that definitely added another element too. But yeah, it was generally just good. so yeah, it's just weird, really.
Yeah, so I guess in terms of the traffic, how was it, especially across the top of the mountain? I mean, there's a big pace difference between the GT3s and the GT4s to the tune of about 10 to 12 seconds a lap, so you obviously had to really time your passes.
Yeah, it wasn't actually as bad as I thought. I thought it'd be a bit more difficult to line up passes, but there were a couple of points there across the top where you could sort of sneak through on the way up, so it wasn't as bad as I thought. It was just about obviously getting the run, teeing it up, and being sure not to be too late on it. There was one moment I had with Travis, I think, where I sort of scared him across the top a bit and he went off, but thankfully kept it out of the wall. But that was really the only moment I had with the GT4, thankfully. But yeah, definitely added another element. Just had to be a bit aware and a bit patient but aggressive at the same time, as always, is the balance with traffic. But it was good. You know, added another element to it that we did get 12 out. So.
Indeed, and it was an overall a really good start to the major season for you with a good result at the Daytona 2.4 and the win here. So do you think you can mount a title challenge?
We'll see. I think coming up, I looked at the schedule, obviously. Wow, weirdly for me, usually I just kind of jump in things ad hoc. But yeah, I had a look and there's a fair bit of like dirt stuff and dirt oval coming up after this. There's only a couple of road things I'm probably going to be up towards the front end, so I'll give it a go. Unfortunately, I know Cam's going to be way better than me on dirt, so we'll see. But I just did have a good time, and you know, if that ended up fighting towards the front, that's a bonus. So yeah, I'll give it a good old crack, the old college try, but we'll see.
We'll see indeed. Before we let you go, Hinzy, is there anyone that you'd like to thank from your top step on the podium?
Yeah, really, probably mostly Brett, actually. I used the set, we used the 12-hour, and it is magic, especially the cool weather. So really big thanks to him. The set was just, as it was the 12-hour, and the same with Owen as well, it was just on rails the whole time. It was just so easy to drive. So big thanks to Brett, and really JR guys in general, just being awesome. SRC, improvised design, all the responses in the car, great setup, shop, all that. Awesome paint, as the Swan at iLiveries did an awesome job as he always does. Again, big thanks to the Majors for putting on a great event as they always do, and big thanks to you guys for what I'm sure was a fantastic broadcast.
Thank you very much, Thomas Hinz, your race winner there in GT3. He's going to come away with a lovely haul of championship points from this one. Next up, we're going to go to our GT4 winner, Cameron Dance. Well, Cam, my goodness, that was quite the race at the start between you and Daniel Stevens. We'll talk about what happened later in the race a bit further on, but just coming off the start, you stayed behind Daniel Stevens, and was the reason for that fuel saving, or were you just trying to preserve your energy for a move later?
A bit of both. I was pretty confident that we had pace over Daniel, especially when we ended up having some technical issues later on. But yeah, it was more or less about just fuel saving, because of the fact that we knew where we were second, and there was no point running up the road unless we knew we could break a gap. So yeah, it was just mostly fuel saving. And then once we once he pitted, it was just a matter of running away and then maintaining the gap. And then what happened later on in the race, I heard about, and yeah, from that point, it was just pretty much bring it home.
Yeah, well, you obviously had a very good set there, and the Fitstyle Motorsport squad turned up well prepared to this one, but it didn't quite go the way for your teammates. Did you miss having that support from Simon Mazzomo later on?
Kind of, not really. I mean, it would have been nice to get a 1-2, but unfortunately, a little bit of miscommunication between himself and Harold unfortunately caused him to end up in the wall. But yeah, really, really good drive by Mez to get home in P5 in class in the end after having to pit early. So yeah, really, really good effort by him, and it was really, really good work between the two of us to just manage how we did and do what we did. But yeah, it was just one of those things about Bathurst is things happen, and that's racing. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'll take the points. Mez scored pretty reasonable as well anyway, so it's not too bad of a run tonight for all the team, actually.
Yeah, and it's going to be a good haul of championship points for you. It was a probably a bit more of a competitive field in GT4 than you might have expected, but ultimately coming away with a great haul, and that's going to set you up well for another title challenge this year.
Oh, 100%. I mean, if you had told me I was going to go 3 for 3 on the first 3 rounds into the championship, I would have said you were bluffing. But no, really stoked to get 3 wins on the board and come home with maximum points each time. And yeah, it's been really a good run so far. Not sure what's going to happen next round at New Hampshire with the Musket 250 and the Tour mods, but yeah, looking forward to it. I remember driving those days early on in my iRacing career and my oval career, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to those cars, and we'll see what happens when we get there.
Indeed we shall. Before we let you go, Cam, anyone that you'd like to thank?
Yeah, just first of all, shout out to all the boys at Fitstyle Motorsport, driving an awesome race today, and all their work on the setup and everything. So yeah, cheers to them. Obviously, cheers to these boys, Craig Setup Shop. We actually used the GT4 setup from last season, threw a couple of changes in it, went, she'll be right, Cobb. But yeah, also obviously cheers to all our partners, Tech Sensor, Involve Harnesses, Demon Tweaks, Fight CRC, Majors Garage, you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast. All the boys back at Majors and the committees and all the organisers for putting on an awesome series and event. And yeah, get one up, you cobber.
Get one up, you cobber, indeed. Cameron Dance there, race winner in GT4, and I think probably a convincing championship lead at this point. The final driver interview of the night, going to be P3 in the GT3 class. It's Philip Morton, again, for Fitstyle Motorsport. Welcome, Philip. Congratulations on the podium, but it was a pretty tough slog for you out there starting from 10th.
It was indeed. Certainly wasn't expecting it. I haven't had much of a chance to turn a wheel until literally today, this morning. So, yeah, I'm absolutely stoked with the third. I was kind of sorry for some of the guys who fell out above me, who definitely had a bit more pace than me, but I'll take the third, thanks.
Yeah, that's just Bathurst, isn't it? It's very much you're battling the track as much as the cars around you. And in a car like the BMW GT3, you know, it's an easy car to drive, but a track like this really brings out the best in driving talent, and one small mistake can really set you apart.
Yeah, I was basically just trying to keep my nose clean the whole time, and not taking silly risks with the GT4s. Made sure that I wasn't going to send any of them or them send me when going over the top. Lost quite a few seconds because of that, but at the same time, I managed to make it to the end with a relatively clean car. So pretty stoked with that, and thanks to the GT4 field, they were fantastic.
Yeah, we saw some great multi-class racing for the most part here tonight. Well, it's a good result for Fitstyle Motorsport with 2 cars on the podium in GT3. Really sets you up for a good challenge at the team's title.
Definitely. Really looking forward to it. Cam and Simon did a fantastic job in GT4, and we're disappointed that unfortunately Aaron had a VR failure, which is why he dropped out. But we'd have had 4 in the top 5 otherwise. So we were really hopeful, but yeah, it wasn't to be for Aaron, unfortunately. Yeah, no, it was a great race overall. Great driving from everybody involved.
And of course, next round is the Musket 250 and the Tour Modifieds at New Hampshire. Obviously, not quite a familiar car for you, Philip, but yeah, have you cast your mind to preparations for that event yet?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go and get a shovel and find out what dirt does. But Right, it's going to be a good challenge. I've done a little bit of street stock, so hopefully that'll help me a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be a whole new kettle of fish.
Yeah, certainly will. Before we let you go, Phil, anyone that you'd like to thank from your third step on the podium?
Probably the same people that Cam thanked. But I just want to thank everyone in the team and you guys, of course, for broadcasting. Because yeah, there's no way I would have been able to make it tonight to the race tonight without the help, because I wasn't able to do any setup work or any work on the car this week. So thanks to them, and thank you so much for broadcasting it and giving us a great platform to review the race.
Indeed. Philip Morton there, third place in GT4 for Fitzstein Motorsport. Well, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight, and well, what a great round of the Majors Series that was in the International Division. The wild card, don't forget, you'll be able to catch this weekend the wild cards for the other regions too. It's going to be Masters of Formula 3 in the European region, and Americas is going to be running the 1979 Grand Prix of Long Beach in the Lotus 79. Make sure to catch that if you are awake around that time. But the next Majors round for us here at SimSpeed TV is going to be the Musket 250 on April the 10th. That's going to be at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in the Tour Modified. Back to the ovals, and a couple of drivers will be looking for some oval redemption after the difficult 1987 Daytona 500 that we saw back on February the 20th. But we hope that you can join us on the 10th of April for that next round of the Majors Series. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Jay Kennedy alongside me in the commentary box. Make sure to catch us here on SimSpeed TV tomorrow night, because we're going to be broadcasting the Virtual Racing School V8 Scops Round 2 from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. From all of us here at SimSpeed, it's bye for now, but not forever. If you're sticking around for Scops, we will see you tomorrow.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to him. Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no.
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?